Chapter 1072. After annihilating the He clan, Ning Fan left and found a secluded place to enter the profound Yin world. Different from killing Bai Lu, the spoils he obtained from this battle were far more than what he obtained from the previous battle. After all, it was the foundation of an entire immortal emperor realm. Pills and magic treasures of various grades were piled up like mountains in the profound Yin world. Ning Fan distributed all the low-grade items to the human cauldrons in the profound Yin world. As for the high-grade items, the human cauldrons would not be able to use them given their cultivation bases. Thus, Ning Fan kept them for himself. He obtained a total of more than 2,000 bottles of pills that could help improve one's cultivation base. He also obtained tens of bottles of pills that could help improve one's cultivation base. After all, the He clan was a great clan that concocted pills with wood flames. Ning Fan also obtained many rare pills and pill recipes from the He clan. He even obtained many pill recipes for the 9 Revolutions Golden Pill and the Emperor Pill. There were countless rare medicinal ingredients. He even obtained a large number of Dao crystals. Unlike the grassland cultivators who loved gold, silver, and stone coins, the 3 Flame Realm cultivators seemed to be more practical. They were no different from the cultivators in the outside world. As for the corpses that the He clan had accumulated since ancient times, all of them were taken away by Ning Fan. Ning Fan also found a body that was suitable for Zhang Yu to possess. Initially, he only planned to seize a female corpse of an immortal emperor from the He clan. However, he did not expect to directly obtain a female corpse of a first-level quasi-saint realm expert. This was a harvest that far exceeded his expectations. With the He clan's foundation, it was impossible for them to collect a female corpse of this level. There was only one possible origin for this corpse. It was something left behind by the southern medicine saint. When Ning Fan showed the corpse to Zhang Yu, he first found it unbelievable. Then, he hugged Ning Fan excitedly. This female empress who sometimes lost her mind really seemed to be looking forward to having a physical body again. Ha! You're indeed the little thief that I took a fancy to. You actually managed to get me a physical body. Moreover, it's a body of such high quality. When did you take a fancy to me? Why didn't I know about it? Don't worry. After I successfully possess this body, I will certainly repay your kindness. How should I repay him? Paying with my body. This is not a bad suggestion. It's a pity that possession requires a lot of time. It's not difficult for an existence like me to possess a physical body. What's difficult is to perfectly fuse the soul with the physical body. This process will take at least 100,000 years or even several million years. Before the perfect fusion, even if I have a physical body, the cultivation I can use will definitely be less than 1/10 of my peak. Furthermore, before the perfect fusion, if you use too much of your cultivation, it might cause problems to your primordial spirit and physical body. Zhang Yu knitted her brows. Within a short period of time, it seemed rather difficult for her to help Ning Fan with her full cultivation base. Furthermore, if he really wanted to seize Jiang Yi's body, he would need to make a lot of preparations and deal with all kinds of troubles. After calming down slightly, Zhang Yu's face turned red. He realized that he had actually hugged Ning Fan because he was too excited just now. All of a sudden, her heart thumped wildly. She pushed Ning Fan away and rolled her eyes at him. She remained silent and did not know what to say. Ning Fan was speechless. She was the one who wanted to throw herself into his arms. Was it his fault now? He was not to the extent where he would get angry just because Zhang Yu rolled his eyes at him. Along the way, he and Zhang Yu had gone through many life and death situations together. Even though their relationship was still a little hostile, they could be considered to have a certain level of friendship. Now that he could help Zhang Yu truly cultivate her physical body, Ning Fan was also very happy. You don't have to worry about fusing with this physical body. It will take a lot of time. When I was helping you look for a physical body, I happened to obtain some pills that can help cultivators to speed up the process of body possession. The other party seems to be quite passionate about body possession. Therefore, he has quite a lot of these pills. Besides, I also have a lot of South Sea spring water which you can use. The South Sea spring water is not bad. But as for the pills, what grade are they? There are all kinds of grades. There are lead grade, silver grade, gold grade and even emperor grade. That's great. I can't believe there are even emperor grade pills. If I have one of these pills, I can perfectly fuse myself with this physical body. I can save at least several 100,000 years of hard work. Not just one. There are about 15 to 16 of them. What? How can there be so many 9 revolutions emperor pills? What did you go through to help me look for a physical body? And your body? It's actually... Only now did Zhang Yu realize that Ning Fan's body seemed to have extremely serious injuries. He seemed to have been poisoned. Even she felt a little threatened by that poison. The little thief seemed to have become stronger again without her knowledge. Also, without her knowledge, he had encountered some life and death crises for her. The one who poisoned him was probably an immortal emperor. It's just a small matter. I've left you the pills, the physical body and the other materials needed for body possession. You can try to possess this body in the profound Yin world. If you're fast, you might be able to perfectly fuse with this physical body after a few months and help me a little. Under Zhang Yu's complicated gaze, Ning Fan smiled indifferently. Then, he turned around and left to look for Ouyang Nuan. The He clan was a great pill refinement clan. They had a lot of good items that only belonged to pill refinement masters. Ning Fan took out some of the items that were useful to Ouyang Nuan and left all of them to her. After that, Ning Fan entered a 10,000 years time tower. He might seem to be doing well in this battle as he had even successfully killed an immortal emperor. However, the injuries he suffered were also extremely serious. First of all, he had to face the backlash of using the 3-water realm bottle. Under the power of the 3-water realm, even the old ancestor of the He clan had to bear a grudge. However, Ning Fan did not have it easy either. The price he had to pay for using the 3-water realm bottle had directly caused serious injuries to his body. Even a crippled body that was as strong as a divine spirit realm was almost half destroyed from the backlash. Secondly, it was the fierce poison of the old ancestor of the He clan. Ning Fan was poisoned by the old ancestor of the He clan. The 3 drops of immemorial poison marrow were deeply rooted in his body like maggots that could not be removed. Even though he had consumed some gold pill and emperor pill antidotes, they could not alleviate the effects of the poison at all. This was the real troublesome part. In this battle, Ning Fan once again confirmed his combat power. If he uses the 3-water realm bottle without hesitation, he would become terrifyingly strong. As long as he sets up a good plan, he was confident that he could kill several 6 tribulation immortal emperors, let alone one. However, the water realm bottle could not be used frequently. At least, before Ning Fan's strength improves to the next level, he could not use it too often. Just by using it once in this battle, Ning Fan's internal organs, flesh, meridians, primordial spirit and sea of consciousness were almost half destroyed. It would take a long time for him to fully recover from his injuries. The price he had to pay was quite heavy. However, if he does not use the 3-water realm bottle, he would still be at a slight disadvantage when facing a real immortal emperor. It was almost impossible for him to win. After all, his cultivation base was too far away from an immortal emperor. Moreover, even if he could kill an immortal emperor by using the 3-water realm bottle, he could not guarantee that he would not be bitten by the immortal emperor. The poison that he was suffering from right now was a proof of that. The poison in my body is really a little troublesome. This poison power is close to that of a sovereign realm expert. Even an emperor-grade antidote pill can't remove this poison. Ning Fan frowned and looked inside his body. At this moment, the 3 drops of immemorial poison marrow were wreaking havoc inside his body like living creatures. Those were the 3 drops of the strongest poison that He Zhu had spent his entire life to refine. They were the foundation of He Zhu's Tao. Once he is poisoned, how could it be easily removed? Even with the strength of Ning Fan's crippled divine spirit body, his injuries kept worsening under the corrosion of this poison. If he does not remove this poison, it would be impossible for him to fully recover from his injuries. After pondering for a long time, Ning Fan finally made up his mind. With a wave of his palm, a dark green poisonous flower with towering poisonous chi appeared in front of him. It was the poison immortal triad that he obtained from the 100 Flowers treasure vault in the past. A single drop of this flower's poison could kill an immortal venerable, while the entire flower could kill an immortal king. It was a first-class poison. If one consumes this flower, it could greatly increase a cultivator's poison resistance. In the past, Ning Fan was aware of his own limitations and did not dare to consume this flower recklessly. However, now that his crippled divine spirit body was incomparably strong, he was no longer afraid of the flower's poison. It seems like this poison immortal triad alone isn't enough. Ning Fan waved his hand again. In an instant, a 100 Zhang giant toad corpse appeared not far away from him. It was Ancestor He's eternal true body. It contained all of Ancestor He's ferocious poison. Ning Fan also took out hundreds of thousands of ancient corpses. They ranged from the corpses of life immortals to the corpses of immortal emperors. All of them were good items that he plundered from the He clan. With another move, Ning Fan took out hundreds and thousands of ferocious poisonous items. They were also the spoils of war that he obtained from annihilating the He clan. After that, he took out countless poisonous pills that the He clan had stored. There were hundreds of thousands of pills ranging from 8th Revolution pills to 9th Revolution Emperor pills. Besides that, Ning Fan took out thousands of poison cultivation techniques of the He clan. If I can't remove Ancestor He's poison using ordinary methods, I don't have to do it anymore. I just need to refine these 3 drops of poison. Ancestor He's poison is a corpse poison that was extracted from countless ancient corpses. From the perspective of classification, it can be considered as a corpse poison. Corpse poison isn't a strange power to me. When I was at the first step of cultivation, I had also cultivated the Tao of corpse devils. I can even use the essence chi of ancient devils to condense some weak poisons. Ancestor He was a Buddhist cultivator. The corpse poison that he refined has the same origin as Buddhism. If I devour it and use the Tao of ancient devils to refine this poison, I can cultivate the yin-yang poison. How about that? If I cultivate the yin-yang poison, I can't just cultivate corpse poison like Ancestor He did. The reason why he couldn't truly step into the sovereign realm was because his poison was too simple. If I cultivate it, Ning Fan's eyes sparkled. Then, he began his long cultivation that lasted for 10,000 years. The time in the outside world was still the moment before Ning Fan entered the tower. However, when Ning Fan walked out of the tower, his face was once again covered with the dust of 10,000 years. Bone age, 130,000. His injuries were completely healed. The poison in his body was still there, but it no longer harmed his body. Instead, it had become a part of his cultivation base. The second yin-yang of the ancient devils. Poison yin-yang poison was completed. The Tao scripture now had a new chapter on poison yin-yang. Due to the fact that his ancient devil bloodline did not change, the strokes of the devil talisman did not increase. However, the patterns of the devil talisman had been modified. In the beginning, there were many trees. Now, some unnecessary branches were missing. The extra strokes formed a poison immortal triad under a big tree. This devil talisman possessed the power of wood and poison at the same time. After cultivating the yin-yang poison, Ning Fan obtained the power of the 7th Tao law. Unlike the yin-yang poison that could speed up the recovery of his magic power, the yin-yang poison had the advantage of increasing his poison resistance to an unimaginable level. On the other hand, it also added poison attacks to his abilities and magic techniques. The Tao of poison was not as domineering as the Tao of fire and lightning. However, if it is used properly, it could sometimes be more difficult to defend against than the Tao of fire and lightning. If he were to fight against Ancestor He again, Ning Fan had great confidence that he could be completely immune to the poison attacks of Zhu. After cultivating the yin-yang poison, Ning Fan's ancient devil cultivation base directly rose from the heavenly devil 10th nirvana to the 11th nirvana realm. As for his ancient god and ancient demon cultivation base, they had absorbed a large amount of medicinal power during the past 10,000 years of cultivation and broke through to the late thought fragmentation realm. The benefits of annihilating the He clan would certainly not be small. After all, the He clan was a dignified immortal emperor-level force. Unfortunately, this kind of business could not go on forever. On the surface, it was very easy for Ning Fan to annihilate the He clan. However, the actual risk was not low. If it wasn't because he insisted on finding a physical body for Zhang Yu, he would not be willing to fight to the death with the immortal emperor of the He clan. Fortunately, he won. What if there was a slight mishap in his water bottle plan, and he failed to kill He Zhu, and was killed by He Zhu instead? What if he was ambushed by another would flame immortal emperor after killing He Zhu? If it isn't necessary, he would not take such a risk. Of course, if Zhang Yu succeeds in seizing the body and fuses perfectly with the female corpse of the quasi-saintess, it would be a different story. When that time comes, Ning Fan would also have some confidence in plundering some immortal emperor-level forces. It's naturally better to avoid unnecessary battles between immortal emperors. Unfortunately, there are always some battles that cannot be avoided. Ning Fan sighed softly. After walking out of the profound Yin world, he began to collect information about the other target of this trip, the 9-Fox innate sacrificial vessel. However, according to the information he collected, the sacrificial vessel that he was looking for seemed to be located in a very troublesome location. A few days later, Ning Fan snuck into the territory of the dead emperor, the Skyflame continent from the Woodflame continent. Along the way, he was even attacked by some immortal emperor realm devil creatures. Basically, they were just probing attacks and he quickly retreated from the battlefield. During this period of time, Ning Fan fought against an immortal emperor realm corpse devil that did not have spiritual intelligence twice. He fought against an immortal emperor realm corpse devil that had spiritual intelligence once. He fought against an immortal emperor realm corpse devil 4 times. He fought against an immortal emperor realm devil creature 3 times. Due to the incident of him annihilating the He clan, it seemed like there were more and more experts of the 3 flames appearing nowadays. Moreover, they were even more vigilant in investigating the unknown traveling light. That was also the reason why Ning Fan frequently encountered experts of the 3 flames and fought against them. Among the devil beasts, Ning Fan even coincidentally fought against an immortal emperor realm nightmare dragon. It was just when he was about to enter the border of the Skyflame continent. With the strength of Ning Fan's crippled divine spirit body, even though he could not win against that Chua dragon who had a 6th tribulation realm cultivation base, he would not be defeated in just one blow. The man and the dragon were fighting fiercely. All of a sudden, that Chua dragon sensed a trace of the chi of the Chua dragon claw on Ning Fan's body. After being stunned for a moment, he directly gave up on attacking Ning Fan and transformed into his human form. Then, he started chatting with Ning Fan in a friendly manner. I didn't expect you to be a Chua dragon as well. This old man is really muddle-headed. I actually attacked my own race. These innate spiritual herbs were collected by me during the past 100,000 years. I'll give them to you as an apology. The one-eyed nightmare dragon elder touched his head apologetically. I'm not a Chua dragon. Ning Fan was slightly speechless. After explaining, he still kept the spiritual herbs that the elderly Chua dragon gave him for free. The old devil's devil Dao, it would be a waste not to take advantage of the enemy, huh? I understand. I understand. The Chua dragon clan has an awkward position in the 3 Flames clan. Because their claws, scales and horns are extremely suitable for refining treasures, they often become the targets of the other 3 Flames immortal emperors. You want to hide your identity, this old man understands very well, but unfortunately, your sharp claws, can't hide from this old man's intelligent eyes. The one-eyed old man had an expression of, I understand, and said to Ning Fan with a kind smile. No. You don't understand. This Chua dragon claw is a type of spiritual equipment. From a certain point of view, I'm considered to be your greatest enemy since I possess the corpse spiritual equipment of your kin. This battle should still continue. Ning Fan said. Ha! You really like to joke. An ordinary Three Flames expert who possesses the corpse spiritual equipment of my Chua dragon definitely won't be able to trigger such a unique dragon claw chi. There's no mistaking it. This chi contains a faint trace of ancient devil essence chi. There's also a trace of ancient demon spiritual power in this essence chi. It's exactly the unique chi of my Chua dragon clan. The progenitor of my clan, Chua dragon, was born from the hybrid of an ancient demon and an ancient devil. Even though our descendants could no longer advance to the level of an ancient demon or an ancient devil, we managed to retain this unique chi. This chi isn't something that the cultivators in the cultivation world can imitate. The so-called excuse of using the spiritual equipment must be just your disguise, isn't it? I understand. I understand. The one-eyed elderly man analyzed with a serious expression. That's why I said that I'm originally an ancient devil and ancient demon cultivator. That's why I can use the Chua dragon claw to release a trace of chi that is similar to the Chua dragon. Ning Fan, I understand. I understand. I understand your intention to hide your identity very well. To be honest, I'm not a Chua dragon. I'm a lizard. A lizard that has grown into the form of a dragon. No. You're the real Chua dragon. Besides, you still have the unique natural chi of us Chua dragons. Hee hee. It's the proof of our clan's love for nature. That's why I said that I'm an ancient divine spirit that symbolizes the creator of nature. You've really misunderstood me. Forget it. I'm too lazy to explain. Ning Fan still had some important matters to attend to in this spatial flame mountain. Naturally, he was too lazy to continue wasting time with this one-eyed Chua dragon. However, since the other party no longer intended to stop him from advancing, he continued on his way. Hold on. Little friend, please wait. As a senior of the same clan, I haven't done my duty as a host yet. Ha! The direction you're heading to is the Spatial Flame Corpse mountain range. Good. Very good. I happen to have some old scores to settle with that Spatial Flame Death Emperor. Come, let's go together. You must have lost a part of your body to the Void Flame Death Emperor. Sigh. I've only lost one of my eyes. You actually lost all of your body parts and only have your left claw left. Pitiful. You're really the most pitiful Chua dragon in the world. So. I'm not a Chua dragon who was hunted by someone and only has my left claw left. Instead, I'm a cultivator who is wearing the left claw of a Chua dragon. Ning Fan felt a slight headache. Initially, he planned to go to the Spatial Flame Corpse mountain range alone. However, he did not expect to have such a troublesome old man who was traveling with him. This old man with a low IQ actually thought that he was a fellow Chua dragon. Moreover, he actually followed him all the way to the Corpse mountain range. Speaking of which, it was strange. When Ning Fan was traveling in the Triple Flames territory, he would often be attacked by some immortal emperor's territories when he passed by them. However, with this strange old man following him, there were no longer any devil beings who attacked him. Don't think that I'm just a sixth tribulation cultivator. If I activate the innate bloodline of my clan, I can kill those who are at a higher level than me. Even the dead emperor would have to be wary of me. Ordinary immortal emperor's devil beings would be even more fearful of me. Don't worry. I'll accompany you to the Corpse mountain range. I'll certainly protect you until you return safely. So, this old man was worried that he would die in the Corpse mountain range. That's why he lied about going there to settle old scores with me. However, it's also a great fortune that you chose to go to the Corpse mountain range at this moment. I heard that the dead emperor had just left the Corpse mountain range due to some unforeseen circumstances. Now, the ones who are guarding the Corpse mountain range are Stone Lord and Wood Lord. Ha! Those two old men aren't as strong as the dead emperor. Our trip to the Corpse mountain range will undoubtedly be much safer. The dead emperor isn't here. That's indeed good news. At least I don't have to fight the flame ancestor who possessed the dead emperor's body. He's one of the 5 venerated beings of the Great Inferiority. I heard that the dead emperor went out to capture a devil-faced maniac who annihilated the entire He clan. Ha! What a grand scheme. What a fierce personality. I like it. I've long found the group of little things in the He clan an eyesore. What's the use of scheming against the medicine slaves all day long? In the end, they were still killed by someone. Speaking of which, little friend, you're also dressed in a devil-faced, silver-haired manner. You look very similar to that maniac in the rumors. Coincidence? It must be a coincidence. The dead emperor was looking for someone everywhere. How could I meet him so coincidentally? Old master, there's really such a coincidence in this world. Sigh, you really don't like to talk much. You're the same as many of your fellow brethren. Boring, really boring. That's right, I haven't asked little friend, why are you heading to the Corpse Mountain Range? I'm looking for something. What thing? Ha! This old man loves to hunt for treasures the most. People call me the Triflame's #1 Origin Heaven Master. That's me. You haven't heard of this title before, but have you heard of this old man's name? Long Sanchue. When this old man first took human form, I paid a dragon scale to ask a Triflame scholar to name me. What? You haven't heard of it? Ha! What a stubborn fellow. You don't want to admit that you've heard of me, Long Sanchue, for a long time. Forget it, tell me what you're looking for. I'll see if I can provide you with some information. I'm looking for a sacrificial artifact. According to some information I have, the sacrificial artifact I'm looking for is in the Skyfire Corpse Mountain Range. Ha! If it's about the sacrificial artifact, you've asked the right person. This old man knows the layout of the sacrificial artifact inside the Corpse Mountain Range like the back of my hand. However, my fellow compatriot, I heard that the sacrificial artifact cannot be touched recklessly. Otherwise, it will trigger a catastrophe. Of course, this old man has only heard about the exact catastrophe. I've never seen it with my own eyes. It's said that those who have witnessed the catastrophe are all dead. The cause of death is Madame Whitebones in the Corpse Mountain Range. Madame Whitebones? Ha! Finally, there's something that interests you. Fine. This old man loves telling stories the most in his life. People call me the Triflame's #1 storyteller. Let this old man tell you about the various legends of Madame Whitebones. It's said that Madame Whitebones. Then, it's the 166th legend. The 681st legend. The 1142nd legend, don't tell me anymore. We've arrived. A few days later, Ning Fan arrived at the border of the Corpse Mountain Range with a relieved expression. Ning Fan felt a headache when he saw how talkative this old man was. If it wasn't because this old man claimed that he knew the Corpse Mountain Range like the back of his hand and that it might be helpful to him on this trip, Ning Fan would have probably activated the Black Immortal Cloud to get rid of this annoying old man. The Corpse Mountain Range was the biggest forbidden area of the Sky Flame sect. According to the legends, there was a huge ferocious creature in the Corpse Mountain Range. That ferocious creature was called Madame Whitebones. Only a few people among the Three Flames Immortal Emperors knew that the so-called Madame Whitebones had another terrifying identity. The #1 supreme being of the Three Flames Immortal Emperors who was in deep slumber. Most of the titles of Long Sanchue were just boasting. However, Madame Whitebones' title of #1 was well-deserved. She was the strongest existence that had been proven by the blood of countless experts of the Three Flames Immortal Emperors. As for the sacrificial artifact that Ning Fan was looking for, it seemed to be in the depths of the Corpse Mountain Range. When Ning Fan and Long Sanchue arrived at the Corpse Mountain Range, which was currently under the highest security, immediately sensed their intrusion. Countless armored soldiers began to rush towards the place. Moreover, there were some fire beacons and smoke that rose into the sky. Oh! The dead emperor has only been away for a few days and there are already people who are reckless enough to barge into the Corpse Mountain Range? How many groups of people have come today? In a palace at the border of the Corpse Mountain Range, Great Emperor Thousand Hands of the Wood Lord snorted disdainfully. Do you want me to do it or do you want to do it? Anyway, they are just a bunch of trash who can't even break the barrier of the mountain range. I won't do it. Thank you for your trouble, Stone Lord. It's just a small matter. It seems like there are 2 Eternal Era experts and one of them is an immortal emperor. My Spirit Mountain Flame Seal is in need of the flesh and blood of such experts to refine it. Chi the Stone Lord's body swayed and turned into a ray of brown flame. He shot out from the palace and went straight to the place where the smoke was the strongest. However, when he arrived at the place, he could no longer see Ning Fan and Long San Chui. There was only the barrier which was filled with chaotic energy and hundreds of holes. Impossible. The barrier of the mountain range which is strong enough to defend against the invasion of a 7 Tribulation Immortal Emperor has actually been successfully invaded by 2 unknown Eternal Era experts in such a short period of time. The Stone Lord was shocked. Even he who was an 8 Tribulation Immortal Emperor would not be able to break the barrier in a short period of time. Those who are not afraid of death. Follow me into the Corpse Mountain Range. The person who takes the head of the intruders will be rewarded with 10 9 Revolutions Emperor Pills. Yes. Immediately, the roars of nearly 1,000 true Immortal Realm Guards filled the sky. Chapter 1073. Unfortunately, it was not easy to find the whereabouts of the 2 intruders in the vast mountain range where there were countless forks and dangers lurking in every 10 steps. Stone Master looked as if he had a well-thought-out plan. He brought thousands of men and followed closely behind Ning Fan and Long San into the Corpse Mountain Range. However, after chasing for a distance of a few mountains, they completely lost track of Ning Fan and Long San. An imposing and majestic pursuit had actually returned empty-handed. With Long San Chui leading the way, Ning Fan did not have to spend too much effort to shake off the pursuit of Stone Master and the others. Long San Chui was very familiar with the topography of the Corpse Mountain Range. With him leading the way, Ning Fan was able to avoid many mazes, forks, and the territories of fierce beasts, reducing the time spent on the journey and allowing them to advance quickly. Although it was said to be fast, it was only in comparison to the difficulty of walking in the Corpse Mountain Range for ordinary people. Even with Long San Chui as a guide, it was impossible for Ning Fan to walk as if he was flying in this mountain range. His speed was enough to shake off Stone Master and the others. Within the mountain range, ancient trees towered into the sky. Those ancient trees were boundless. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of years had passed since they died. The thinnest one would require 100 people to hug it while the thicker ones would occupy an area of a few mu. The growth of the ancient trees was in accordance with the rules. Between the gaps of the trees, there were many forks. Each of the forks was in the shape of a dragon. Countless forks were connected to each other as if thousands of dragons were entrenched there. Ordinary people might not be able to feel it, but Ning Fan, who had cultivated the secret word, force, could feel a powerful aura rushing towards him the moment he saw the layout of this place. Moreover, he could feel a trace of extreme danger from this complicated geographical layout. His hair stood on end uncontrollably. His intuition would never be wrong. This Corpse Mountain Range was a land of great danger. Every blade of grass and tree in the mountain range seemed ordinary, but they could not be touched casually. Ning Fan's eyes were extremely solemn. Just now, he accidentally touched an ancient tree in this place, which immediately triggered a slight change in the grand momentum of this place. Then, countless gray sword silks as thin as a woman's hair burst out from the ancient tree. The power it exuded directly blasted Ning Fan's and Long San Chui away. Fortunately, Ning Fan managed to activate the Dharma image of the god-destroying giant in time. In an instant, he transformed into the complete form of the god-destroying giant. Even though he was sent flying by the gray sword thread, he was not injured at all. Long Sanchui, on the other hand, was much more miserable. Even though he had activated his black dragon scales at the critical moment to defend himself, he was still beaten to the point of vomiting blood and suffering some injuries. What was interesting was that Long San Chui did not forget his sense of responsibility as a senior of Feng Long and wholeheartedly wanted to protect Ning Fan. He spread his massive black dragon wings and stood in front of Ning Fan. While wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he turned around and gave Ning Fan a thumbs up. His white teeth shone brightly, making him look like he was too hot-blooded. "Little friend, be careful. Don't touch any of the plants here. Quickly come under my dragon wings and let me protect you. Don't be afraid and don't panic. As long as this old man is here." When he turned his head, what he saw was Ning Fan, who had dispersed the god-exterminating giant and was unscathed. The gray sword thread dissipated after one strike. Suddenly, a few crows flew past the ancient forest. Awkward. Apart from the awkward beginning, Long San Chui, who was acting like a senior, would never have thought that even a sixth tribulation immortal emperor like him would be injured by the sword thread while Ning Fan was unscathed. Ning Fan suddenly felt that it was a little funny. This Long San Chui seemed to be a supreme being. His brain seemed to be a little dull. Although cultivators with beast bodies would more or less have a one-track mind, this old man's one-track mind seemed to have exceeded the bottom line of ordinary people. After talking to him for a long time, you would realize that this person was purely an idiot. However, Ning Fan was more than willing to travel with this kind of idiot compared to those shrewd old monsters. At least he did not have to worry about the other party stabbing him in the back. With his ability to communicate with all living things, he could easily find out the following information. He was sure that Long San Chui's hot-blooded stupidity was not an act. Long San Chui's clothes. I am clothes. I am clothes. Master is an idiot. He is an idiot. Long San Chui's shoes. I am shoes. I am shoes. Master is an idiot. He is an idiot. Long San Chui's eyesores. I am eyesores. I am eyesores. Master is an idiot. He is an idiot. Long San Chui's. In short, this was a somewhat pitiful immortal Emperor Hui Long. Even the parts of his body were laughing at him for being an idiot. If it wasn't for such a convenient information-gathering ability, Ning Fan would never trust Long San Chui, who he had only met once. Ning Fan raised his hand and threw a bottle of pills to Long San Chui, breaking the awkward atmosphere. Long San Chui caught the pill and scanned it with his spirit sense. His expression was instantly shocked and tears filled his eyes. 9 Transformations Emperor Pill. Little friend is really forthright, to actually casually gift such a high-level healing medicinal pill. I am really touched. Quickly consume it and heal your injuries. I will protect you. In any case, it was me who carelessly touched the ancient trees here. That was why I triggered the sword silk attack and caused you to be injured. It is only natural for me to compensate you with some pills. Ning Fan said indifferently. Words cannot express my gratitude. It is fate that brought us together. From today onwards, I will recognize you as my friend. I will go through water and tread on fire. Little friend, just one word and I will not refuse. Long San Chui laughed. He sat cross-legged on the ground and consumed the pill to refine it. His hearty laughter suddenly gave Ning Fan an indescribable sense of familiarity. It was familiar yet strange. It would take some time to refine the medicinal power and heal his injuries. At first, Long San Chui was concentrating on healing his injuries. Later on, he became bored and began to find topics to chat with Ning Fan. Unlike Long San Chui, who was talkative, Ning Fan was not a talkative person. In Long San Chui's eyes, he was completely the type of person who could not say anything and had an extremely boring character. In the end, Long San Chui gave up on finding topics to chat with Ning Fan. He licked his lips and asked, "Do you have wine?" It was his addiction to wine. You are an immortal emperor but you don't have your own spiritual wine? Ning Fan was speechless. Hey! Don't be so calculative about such a small matter. I won't hide it from little friend. I have already finished my own wine. Ha! It's not easy to meet a fellow countryman, so. So you came with me just to cheat some wine? Ning Fan felt a headache. Ha! You can't say that. It's not that I have to drink wine. It's just that I feel like old friends at first sight. It's like it's not the first day we met. That's why I want to have a drink with you. Cultivators of our generation have the same interests. If I can't sit in a dangerous building and drink a pot of real good wine, it will be a pity. Ning Fan became silent. Like old friends at first sight, he seemed to have a strange feeling. He felt that he was familiar with Long San Chui yet strange. Moreover, Long San Chui's words gave him a sense of familiarity. It was as if he had heard similar words somewhere before. I remember now, that year, he changed his name to Liu Bei and accepted the request of Luoyun demon sealer Liu Daochen to rescue a general of the ancient heavenly court, Lu Wu. Before Lu Wu disappeared, he seemed to have said something similar. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to reincarnate again. Thank you. It's a promise and a promise. That's all. Senior doesn't need to thank me. If I send you off without wine, wouldn't it be a pity? Well said. What a good way to send you off. Everyone is afraid of death and samsara. However, you compared death to a long journey. I can't compare to your heroic spirit. I'll drink this wine. If we're fated to meet again in my next life, I'll definitely sit in a dangerous building and drink a pot of real good wine with you. I'll sit in a dangerous building and drink a pot of real good wine with you. All of a sudden, Ning Fan felt an impact on his soul. He sensed it and looked at Long San Chui. As he did, his eyes were filled with shock. It was as if he had confirmed something. However, there was something unexplainable and unimaginable in it. This Long San Chui, who was a little stupid, a little righteous and a little heroic, seemed to be Lu Wu, who he had a drinking date with before. If he carefully identified their chi, he would find that their chi was very different due to the changes of samsara. However, within the difference, there was a trace of unchanging nature that could not be erased even by samsara. Could this Long San Chui actually be Lu Wu's reincarnation? Could it be that the so-called, like old friends at first sight, was just a drinking date in the past? However, there was something that couldn't be explained. How many years had it been since Lu Wu re-entered samsara? Judging from Long San Chui's bone age, he was obviously a great sovereign who had lived since the ancient times. It was impossible for him to be a reincarnation. Then, was the chi that was similar to Lu Wu's just an illusion? Or could it be that samsara was not something that could be understood by normal time logic? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with green light. He was at a loss. His understanding of samsara was also tumbling in his mind. There were two voices in his mind arguing whether Long San Chui was Lu Wu or not. One of them firmly believed that his feeling was not wrong, while the other kept denying this argument with time logic. After a long time, only then did Ning Fan's expression return to normal. He let out a long sigh. He couldn't figure it out. He couldn't see through it. Reincarnation was actually such an incomprehensible thing. If he was in it and tried to understand it with his own time logic, it seemed very difficult to see the truth. Since he couldn't figure it out, Ning Fan stopped thinking about it. He patted his storage pouch and took out 2 jars of spiritual wine. He tossed one to Long San Chui and opened the mud seal. He then gulped down the wine. It was as if he wanted to drink all the puzzles in his mind and throw them to the back of his mind. Long San Chui was startled at first, then he burst into laughter. He also opened the mud seal and drank to his heart's content. After drinking, the two of them no longer talked. Long San Chui quickly finished refining the medicinal power and returned to his peak state. However, there were still some changes. Previously, Long San Chui and Ning Fan traveled together out of kindness to protect the younger generation. Ning Fan, on the other hand, just wanted to use Long San Chui's understanding of Corpse Mountain Range. But now, it was different. There seemed to be some friendship between the two of them. It was as if they had been accumulating for many years. It was as if this drinking session was Ning Fan's first time but not Long San Chui's first. Ning Fan's eyes slightly narrowed. He was sure of one thing. Long San Chui's physical body was quite powerful. His injuries could recover very quickly. Even without the pills he gave him, Long San Chui could still recover in a very short period of time. Hey! I've been on the road for so many days and I actually didn't ask for little friend's name. May I know little friend's name? You can call me Ning Fan or Liu Bei, Liu Bei. Where have I heard this name before? Sure enough, little brother Ning gave me a feeling of familiarity at first sight. Ha! Familiarity at first sight, huh? Samsara is like a stranger, perhaps it is also like a reunion, Ning Fan murmured to himself. What he said made Long San Chui's eyes go blank. He only felt that Ning Fan's words were so profound that it had exceeded his understanding. Now, it seemed like he had underestimated this junior from the beginning. Little brother Ning's defensive method is truly heaven-defying. You can actually block the attack of the Saint's Sword formation with just your immortal venerable cultivation. Truly amazing. I originally wanted to save you, but I didn't expect that I would be helped by you instead. Ha! I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. Long San Chui laughed loudly. If I didn't have a certain method, I wouldn't have dared to come here. As for the Saint's Sword formation. So that's how it is. No wonder the sword threads just now had such terrifying power. It made me instantly have the premonition to activate my strongest defense. It turns out that the grand pattern of this place has actually formed a Saint's absolute killing sword formation. That's why it's so dangerous. Ning Fan's expression did not show it, but his heart was slightly shocked. No wonder he couldn't see the trajectory of the grand pattern of this place even with his attainments in the Force secret art. This place is really not a good place. Rumor has it that when the great humble sacred ancestor was still alive, he once used the mountain pattern as a sword and heaven and earth as a sheath to lay down a grand killing sword formation. After his death, this place became the sleeping place of Madame White Bones for some unknown reason. Sigh. Even though I'm the first among the three flames, by Shaosheng, I don't know much about the secrets within. In short, you and I must be careful when we walk in this forest. Just don't disturb the grand pattern of this place. As for the sacrificial tool that you're looking for. Sigh. That kind of thing is the key to the grand pattern of this place. If it's disturbed, forget it. We're acquaintances. If there's a sudden change in the grand pattern, I'll certainly lend you a hand. As soon as he finished speaking, Long San Chui, who had fully recovered from his injuries, once again led Ning Fan through the forked paths of the ancient trees which were filled with dangerous qi. Occasionally, the qi of powerful ancient creatures could be felt from both sides of the path. The weakest of them was at the immortal venerable realm. There were also many immortal emperors. The Three Flames was the most dangerous place in the Supreme Dan Holy region. The Corpse Mountain Range was the most dangerous place in the Three Flames. Ning Fan didn't find it strange that there were so many powerful qi lying dormant. He also didn't deliberately investigate what kind of species those qi belonged to. If he didn't take the initiative to investigate those ancient creatures, it seemed like he wouldn't be attacked. At the place where the two mountain ranges were connected, there would usually be a formation barrier to prevent outsiders from invading the interior of the mountain range. Long San Chui, who claimed to be the first original heavenly master of the Three Flames, only had an average attainment in the Tao of formations. It was extremely strenuous for him to break these formations. Fortunately, Ning Fan would always search for the location of the Yin formation and use a method that Long San Chui couldn't understand to easily disrupt the power of the formation. All kinds of strange things about Ning Fan constantly refreshed Long San Chui's understanding. Gradually, no matter how stupid Long San Chui was, he realized that Ning Fan was the ghost-masked cultivator who annihilated the He clan and killed He Zhu. Of course, he didn't realize that Ning Fan wasn't the same kind as Chuolong. While advancing, Ning Fan memorized the layout of the formation in this place. Gradually, the transformation of the entire Corpse Mountain Range became clearer in his mind. There were more than 1,000 mountain peaks in the Corpse Mountain Range. However, most of them were just illusions of the formation. There were only 305 mountain peaks that were in the real position. The arrangement of the mountain peaks was even more strange. If one didn't have the ability to distinguish the real from the fake, he definitely wouldn't be able to see it. The 305 mountain peaks stood on the ground. If one looked down from the sky, they would see a giant with the mountain as its bones, stretching its limbs and sleeping on the ground. 305 bones. It wasn't the number of bones of an adult, but it roughly matched the number of bones of an infant. The layout of this place gives me an extremely uncomfortable feeling. It's not as simple as a sense of danger. It's a pure dislike. The route we're taking seems to be entering from the foot of the sleeping infant layout and heading towards the head. There seems to be an extremely powerful existence sealed at the head of the sleeping infant layout. That kind of power seems to be even scarier than Supreme Being Nyogue. Could it be the legendary strongest person among the 5 venerated beings of Debay? Madam White Bones. In the past, I learned the heaven-breaking sword finger from Little Dugu. That level of sword Dao inheritance seems to resonate with some kind of sword Dao power in this place. Speaking of which, the Heaven Capital Emperor schemed against me that day. He wanted to trick me into coming to the most dangerous place of the Sky Flame to learn some kind of supreme sword Dao. Could it be that the place that the Heaven Capital Emperor schemed against is this Corpse Mountain range? If that's the case, it's really a coincidence. While advancing slowly, Ning Fan's mind was racing. 2 days later, he finally arrived at the head of the sleeping infant layout under Long San Chui's free guidance. The first thing he saw was a huge door of heaven wasteland above a dense forest. The Great Gate of Infinite Wasteland is the path that immortal Emperor Zido left for the descendants of immortal cultivator Zido. There were also rumors in the outside world that there was an infinite desolate stone gate inside the extreme Dan sacred region. Unexpectedly, it was actually true. Not to mention that the stone gate is located in the Corpse Mountain range, which is the most dangerous of the Tri-Flames. I was still wondering why the Demon Clan and Demon Clan didn't covet this stone gate, but the one in the wilderness instead of this stone gate. So that's how it is. It must be because the true foundation of the Supreme Dan sacred region is too strong, and the location of this stone gate is too tricky. With the 4 heavens of the illusionary world and the foundation of the demon race, the success rate of attacking this stone door under the eyes of the 5 venerables of Debay was close to 0. Therefore, on the surface, it seems that the wilderness is easier to obtain. Strange. This stone gate of infinite wasteland is calling me. If it was the previous Ning Fan, he would not be able to hear such a call. But now, he was a deity with a crippled body, and he was a deity who had awakened the ability to communicate with all things. He could hear the voice of the stone gate of infinite wasteland, but the others could not. It's the response of the key. It's in your hands. I can't be wrong. Disciple of ancient chaos, do you want to open me and walk into the ancient mirror of infinite wasteland through me and into the true world? It was the gentle call of the stone gate of infinite wasteland. Then, Ning Fan felt that there seemed to be some kind of power behind the last door of the scripture hiding tower that ancient chaos gave him. It was slowly opening the door. The door that he could not open no matter what. The voice that claimed that, the Lord doesn't recognize me. I'm your key but you've forgotten about me. The Lord doesn't recognize me. With a loud bang, the door of the scripture hiding tower opened. Then, a ray of gray light flew out from the scripture hiding tower in the profound Yin world. Ning Fan summoned it and took it out from the tower, landing on his palm. It was a teardrop. It was an illusory key that was formed by the gray tear. I'm your key. I'm your key to open the stone gate of infinite wasteland and return to the true world. That was the voice of the gray tear. Open me with the key. Then, you will have the right to return to the true world and return to your butterfly's hometown. Even if it's to lead the descendants of Zido immortal cultivators back to the true world, it's all up to you. It was the call of the gigantic gate of infinite wasteland again. Ning Fan had never expected that such a situation would happen after he came to the Corpse Mountain range. Even with his temperament, he could not help but feel a little lost at this moment. The key and the stone gate of infinite wasteland were all too sudden. He needed to think about them properly. especially the key. Due to the obstruction of the samsara, Ning Fan could not hear the sound of the key clearly. However, when he touched the gray tier key at such a close distance, he clearly felt a sense of familiarity from it. The chi within the key was clearly the same as the sword ancestors. I see. No wonder this key kept telling me that the Lord doesn't recognize me. That's right. In the fourth samsara void tribulation, Ning Fan saw some karma. He was originally a butterfly that reincarnated in the butterfly's hometown. It was the sword ancestor who brought him out of the butterfly's hometown and into the human world. The sword ancestor must know him. However, because he had reincarnated in the past, he had long forgotten about the encounter when he was a butterfly. Ring ring. The gray tier key in Ning Fan's hand suddenly shone and vibrated. At the same time, the incessant sounds of chains colliding resounded from one of the gray mountain peaks not far away. To be more precise, the sound came from a huge karst cave on the gray mountain peak. Ning Fan frowned deeply. From that karst cave, Ning Fan sensed a terrifying aura force that was comparable to that of an ancient great cultivator. That aura force was ethereal. It was sometimes very close and sometimes extremely far away, making it difficult for others to accurately sense the chi state of that ancient great cultivator. However, since an ancient great cultivator suddenly appeared in this place, it was most likely the Madam White Bones who was known as the #1 supreme being of the great infernal realm. The Madam White Bones in the karst cave did not seem to be awake. Instead, she seemed to be in a deep sleep. If one were to listen carefully, they would hear the sound of the wind between heaven and earth. It was so even that it sounded like the breathing of a lady when she was sleeping soundly. There was no doubt that it was the breathing of the Madam White Bones. The sacrificial artifact of Jiuli that I'm looking for seems to be in that karst cave. Ning Fan said as if he was facing a formidable enemy. The rumored Madam White Bones seems to be in a deep sleep in that karst cave. Hiss. What a terrifying chi. It's even scarier than what I imagined. If I'm not careful, I'll definitely die. There's no other way. Brother Ning, just wait here. I'll go into that cave and see if there's the sacrificial artifact you're looking for. With your cultivation base, you shouldn't take the risk. Long Sanchue's teeth began to chatter. It was his body that was instinctively afraid of the dangers in the karst cave. It was not because he was afraid. He could sense the terror of the Madam White Bones in the karst cave. However, if he had to take the risk, he was willing to take the risk for Ning Fan. There's no need. I'm already very grateful to Senior for bringing me all the way here. Naturally, I won't let Senior take the risk for me. I didn't expect the chi of this Madam White Bones to be comparable to an ancient great cultivator. It seems like this sacrificial artifact of Jiuli is really not something that can be easily obtained. If there's any mistake during this trip, not only will I die here, but I might also drag Senior down with me. How about this? Senior should leave now. I'll wait for Senior to leave the Corpse Mountain range before entering this cave. At that time, even if some unforeseen events happen, I won't drag Senior down with me. Ning Fan said expressionlessly. No. I'm the one who brought you here. How can I leave you alone? Don't worry, Senior. If I'm alone, it'll be easier for me to escape. Ha! Are you saying that I, a dignified 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor, am a burden to a junior immortal venerable like you? Long Sanchue laughed heartily, but his stubborn attitude showed that he would not leave in advance no matter what. Ning Fan suddenly felt a headache. Having such a loyal friend sometimes made him feel helpless. Forget it, if the situation is so serious that I have no choice but to escape, I'll risk everything and leave with Long Sanchue. It doesn't matter if it's Lu Wu or Long Sanchue. Quickly go and get the sacrificial artifact that you want. Because of my delay in recuperating, it seems like the Stone Lord's people are about to catch up to this place. When you go to find the artifact, I'll be waiting outside to block the Stone Lord's people for you. Long Sanchue's one eye suddenly narrowed. There were many 3 Flame Realm cultivators approaching from the dense forest. Immediately, he waved his hand and sent out a gust of wind, sending Ning Fan to the entrance of the karst cave. Then, he stood in front of the entrance with his hands clasped behind his back. He was already prepared to fight against those pursuers. Ning Fan did not say anything else. He cupped his fists towards Long Sanshue from afar and entered the karst cave in a flash. The deeper he went into the cave, the more he could feel the massive aura force that felt like it was separated by an entire cycle of reincarnation. About a few hundred steps into the cave, a gray sword light with a chaotic luster suddenly slashed out from an empty scabbard hanging on the stone wall of the cave. Chapter 1074. As soon as the gray sword light slashed out, it was extremely terrifying. The massive sword pressure instantly turned into a strong gust of wind, sweeping towards the entrance of the cave. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. Without saying a word, he directly activated the strongest form of the god-destroying giant in this huge cave. The 100 zhang tall giant of golden flames rushed towards the chaotic sword light with its giant shield. The sword light that seemed to be able to destroy everything penetrated through the cave and landed on the god-destroying giant shield. Ning Fan did not dare to directly block the sword light with his giant body. The sword light gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. It gave him a disdainful aura force that seemed as if there was nothing in the 9 mountains and 8 seas. If he directly uses his giant golden body to block the sword light, Ning Fan had an intuition that his golden body would be directly split apart by the sword light and he himself would be killed by it. Any gray sword light in this place had the terrifying power of enlightened being by Lu's Joss flame sword in the past. However, if it's the god-destroying shield which was a heaven-opening treasure, it would not be able to destroy the shield no matter how strong the sword light was. Ning Fan still had this bit of confidence. Rumble, the god-destroying shield was a heaven-opening treasure. Even if it was not complete, it still had its toughness. Even with the strength of the gray sword light, it could not destroy the shield. However, the impact of the sword pressure still forced the god-destroying giant to retreat continuously. The golden flames around its body flickered as if they would be extinguished by the sword pressure at any time. Ning Fan, who was hiding inside the body of the god-destroying giant, could not ignore the sword pressure either. Every part of his body was aching as if it was going to be crushed by the sword pressure. All he could do was to keep retreating. He could not move forward against the sword light. The sacrificial tool of Jiu Chu is hidden in this cave. If I give up now, I can certainly escape unscathed. However, what about Master Wangu? Ning Fan's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood essence and performed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers. The blood essence immediately entered the giant's body, causing the golden flames which were flickering to burn brightly again. So what if this sword light is strong? In front of my heaven-opening treasure, it has to submit. Bang! The incomparably sharp gray sword light was forcefully knocked away by the giant along with a loud bang. The attack of this sword light is indeed extremely strong. However, it's not strong enough and it's getting weaker and weaker. It gives me a chance to knock it away head-on. That sword light was shot out from the scabbard on the wall. A single scabbard seems to only have the power for one attack. However, there seemed to be a lot of scabbards in the cave. Crack! As Ning Fan broke through the sword light, the scabbard that released the sword light broke into pieces. Ning Fan untied the god-destroying giant and picked up the broken scabbard to examine it. He felt that this kind of scabbard looked somewhat familiar. It was very similar to the sword sheath he had used to slash Moksha Sovereign at the beginning of his cultivation. It was also very similar to the sword sheaths of the sword ancestors that he had seen at the bottom of the Sword World's Sword Inquisition Lake. It seemed to be the scabbard that to the scabbard. And the scabbard. Sword Ancestor's aura. After carefully sensing it, he could sense the unique chi of the sword ancestor from the sheath. His eyes flickered as if he had a guess, but he didn't say anything more. Instead, he swallowed some pills and sat down cross-legged to refine them, recovering the rapidly consumed magic power in his body. His eyes flickered as if he had a guess. However, he did not say anything. Instead, he consumed some pills and sat cross-legged to refine them, recovering the magic power in his body that was rapidly consumed. Otherwise, if he encounters such a sword light again, his defense would not last long and he would certainly be killed by the sword light. After 100 breaths, Ning Fan exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi and moved forward again. After walking for another few hundred steps, Ning Fan encountered the second scabbard on the wall and was attacked by the sword light of the same scabbard. Without a choice, Ning Fan could only use his blood essence to block the sword light with the God-exterminating shield. Then, he replenished his magic power and moved deeper into the cave. After that, it was the third, the fourth, and the 19th scabbard. According to Ning Fan's estimation, it had been 8 hours since he entered the cave. Long San Chui, who was outside, should still be helping him fend off the pursuers of Stone Lord. Judging from the fact that there were no pursuers inside the cave, Long San Chui might still be in a stalemate with them, suppressing the dizziness and weakness caused by the excessive loss of blood essence. Ning Fan continued to move deeper into the cave. According to Ning Fan's intuition, he was not moving in a straight line in the cave. Instead, he was moving in circles. After going round and round, he finally approached the center of the circle. Under the continuous activation of the secret force, Ning Fan gradually gained some understanding of the layout of the cave and had some speculations. The 24th scabbard, the 36th scabbard, the 48th scabbard. When Ning Fan finally blocked the 49th scabbard, there were no more sword scabbards blocking his path. Ning Fan muttered to himself. Sure enough, he used his spirit sense to check the path he came from. Just as he expected, the 49 sword scabbards that he destroyed along the way were reforming under the circulation of the formation power of this place. Then, they reappeared on the wall one after another. Those sword scabbards seemed to be able to be used repeatedly. In other words, if he were to go back and leave the cave, he would have to resist another round of 49 sword light slashes. If the sword scabbard could be regenerated, he wouldn't be able to determine whether the pursuers of Stone Lord were still being held back by Long San Chui or if they had already dealt with Long San Chui but didn't dare to enter the cave because of the terror of the sword scabbard. After all, Long San Chui was just a 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor while Stone Lord was an 8th Tribulation Immortal Emperor with a lot of helpers. I must solve this matter as soon as possible and help Long San Chui. Ning Fan's expression darkened slightly. He increased his speed and continued to move deeper into the cave. It had been a whole day since he entered the cave. When he reached such a depth, there were stalactites hanging upside down on the rock layer of the cave and water droplets were constantly dripping from them. The sound of water droplets and the clanking of chains that came from the depths of the cave gave Ning Fan the illusion that he was having a dream again. This feeling was very familiar, very familiar. It was very similar to the sound of water droplets and the clanking of chains that he heard when he tried to open his eyes with the power of extreme yang. Little Dai Ho, stop sleeping. Wake up quickly. Little Dai Ho, stop sleeping. Stop sleeping. If you continue to sleep, you won't be able to catch up with the moon that appears once every 10 years in the ancient desolate mountain. Ning Fan recalled the words that he heard when he was in the power of extreme yang. Those words, the sound of water droplets and the clanking of chains had always been a mystery in his heart. He wanted to unravel it and find out the truth. Since he started cultivating, he already had an understanding of the reincarnation cycle of his past and present lives. His past life originated from the hometown of the butterfly. He was brought to the human world by the sword ancestor, and then entered the illusory world to reincarnate. Then, he flew to the ancient heavenly court and sacrificed himself to destroy the eye of the immortal Emperor Zhangqing. After countless lifetimes, he finally reincarnated as a human. This was the history of his past and present lives, but there were still many mysteries in this history that he could not see clearly. Perhaps the so-called Madam of Bones is actually. Ning Fan's heart suddenly calmed down. His intuition told him that as long as he made it here and passed through the obstruction of the 49 scabbards, there wouldn't be too much danger ahead. Or maybe it wasn't intuition, but a speculation. After walking for an unknown amount of time, an incomparably spacious space suddenly appeared at the end of the tunnel ahead. On the stone ground, there were ancient swords covered in blood and rust. Some were complete, some were broken, and some had lost their spirituality. There were also swords that still had some power left. There were ancient fiend god weapons as well as ordinary magic treasures. There were swords that were stained with the blood of a first-step cultivator as well as immortal emperor swords. There were even swords that were stained with the blood of saints. Unfortunately, those swords were too old and were no longer useful. The massive chi of the swords kept attacking Ning Fan, but it could not stop him from moving forward. Ning Fan stepped on the ruins of the swords and advanced forward. After walking for an unknown period of time, there were no more broken swords in front of him. He avoided the stalagmites that occasionally blocked his way and continued forward. Then, he saw a 9-story iron tower that was piled up with countless sword remains. There were more than 1,000 ancient sacrificial tools placed in the 64 directions around the iron tower. Each of those sacrificial tools came from different cultivation clans. Some of them were of high grade and some were low. Ning Fan had seen some of them before, some of them he had heard of and some of them were unknown to him. Among those sacrificial tools, Ning Fan easily found an innate sacrificial tool that emitted a similar chi to the black cat. The innate sacrificial tool of the 9 Raccoon clan, the 4th clan of the Dao Soul realm, was indeed here. This item was one of the targets that Ning Fan was looking for when he entered the Supreme Pill's sacred region. However, Ning Fan did not immediately go to take the sacrificial tool. Instead, he scanned the surrounding stone walls. There were more than 10,000 sword scabbards hanging on the surrounding walls, giving people goosebumps. These sword scabbards also contained gray sword light. If all of them were to be activated at the same time, it would be enough to kill him hundreds or thousands of times. Ning Fan sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes, however, were still filled with determination. He continued to observe the layout of this place. Eventually, his eyes fell on the highest floor of the iron tower where a white skeleton was sleeping soundly. The white skeleton was wearing an ancient female outfit. She was leaning on the throne. Her long black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. It did not decay with the passage of time. Instead, it still carried a dark luster like the hair of a living person. It was the skeleton of a woman. The skeleton's limbs were bound by an unknown scarlet golden chain. The chain extended from the top of the iron tower to both sides and was nailed to the stone walls on both sides. The golden chain was covered with talismans. Moreover, it was connected to the power of all the sacrificial tools in this place and resonated with the formation of the saints in the entire Corpse Mountain range. A vast sealing power faintly spread out from the golden chain. Its sealing power was not any weaker than that of a third-step expert. If one were to listen carefully, they would notice that the skeleton of the woman who was obviously unable to breathe was still breathing evenly. She was not dead yet. It seemed like she was just sleeping on the throne. If one were to take a closer look, they would also notice that the ground near the iron tower was covered with a thick layer of crystal dust. Some of it had accumulated on the ground and some of it had accumulated in puddles. Ning Fan held up a handful of the dry dust and examined it. Immediately, his eyes widened in shock. The dust was none other than the corpse ashes left behind by the experts who had perished. Judging from the thick layer of corpse ashes here, countless experts had died within 100 steps of the iron tower. There was no lack of immortal venerables, immortal kings and even the corpse ashes of immortal emperors. Among the sword intent here, there is the third step perfection intent. Is this the perfection sword intent that Tian Du's emperor wants to comprehend? If I touch the sacrificial tools recklessly, I will most likely be attacked by the tens of thousands of sword scabbards here. Tian Du's emperor actually boasted shamelessly that he would bring me here to comprehend the sword intent here and that he could guarantee my safety. With his strength of a sixth tribulation immortal emperor, he is really daydreaming. It is still unknown whether or not he can sneak into the Corpse Mountain range and come to this place. The so-called guarantee of safety is probably just a lie. The so-called white-bone female corpse is indeed the remains of the sword ancestor. The sword ancestor, the extraordinary woman who has borne countless karma in my path of cultivation. The woman who looks similar to Dugu Xiao but is ultimately different. What a touching sword intent this is. It has a hint of bitterness and also, an inextinguishable longing that is deeply hidden in the sword intent. It will never fade. This is not the sword intent of the sword formation that the Southern Alchemy Saint set up here. This is, the sword intent of the sword ancestor. The sword ancestor has already become a skeleton, but who is she still thinking about? Ning Fan sighed. He did not act recklessly in this dangerous place. Instead, he cupped his fists and bowed to the 9 floors of the Iron Tower where the sword ancestor's remains were stored. Without the sword ancestor, he probably would not have the chance to leave the butterfly tribe's hometown and step into the mortal world. Without the sword ancestor's sword scabbard, he would probably have died in the hands of Moksha sovereign when he was young and perished together with the 7 apricot city and the old devil. Unknowingly, he had already owed the sword ancestor a lot of karma. A mere bow was certainly not enough to repay him, but it was enough to express his gratitude. This bow that was close to etiquette immediately caused some changes in this place. Clang clang, it was the sound of the golden chains that locked the sword ancestors' remains colliding with each other. Clang clang clang, it was the sound of the shaking of the chains becoming more intense. Drip drip, it was the sound of water dripping from the top of the cave into the water on the ground through the stalactites. Drip drip. At a certain moment, the water on the top of the cave suddenly stopped dripping. Instead, it seemed to have solidified and stopped in mid-air. All of a sudden, the chains no longer made any sound. Instead, all the sounds were frozen at this moment. At this moment, the sword ancestors' remains that were originally leaning on the throne on the top floor of the Iron Tower suddenly stood up with the support of the handrail. Standing on the Iron Tower, it looked down at Ning Fan, who was not far away from it. Ning Fan's eyes were slightly surprised. Then, he narrowed his eyes. Of course, he would not think that the sword ancestor who was only left with a skeleton could not move anymore. He had already known about the many rumors about the Madam of White Bones in the outside world. The sword ancestor could still move around with his skeleton body. Such an existence could no longer be estimated with common sense. Of course, it was unknown how much rationality the sword ancestor still had left. Due to the restraints of the chains, the sword ancestor who had a white skeleton body could not leave the Iron Tower. She could only stand on the roof of the tower in a strange manner, looking down at Ning Fan with her empty eye sockets. She did not have the intention of looking down on him. Instead, there was a kind of indescribable gentleness. The sword ancestor is the person who brought me out of the butterfly's hometown. If she still has consciousness, she might not attack me. However, if she really does attack me, it will be as easy as flipping her hand with the ancient great cultivation realm strength that she has retained. What should I do now? If I touch the sacrificial tool of Jiuli, it will disrupt the structure of this place. Not to mention that I will be killed by the 10,000 swords here. I might even unintentionally release the sword ancestor's remains with terrifying strength. Should I try to communicate with the sword ancestor and see if I can take away the sacrificial tool without harming the harmony between us? If she can't speak, I will use the ability to communicate with her remains. Ning Fan's expression gradually became solemn. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. After thinking for a while, he erased his ghost face and decided to try to communicate with the sword ancestor with his true appearance. Just as he was about to take action, the sword ancestor who was standing on the 9 floors of the Iron Tower spoke first. Little butterfly, the sword ancestor's empty eye sockets were clearly empty. However, at this moment, 2 streams of tears flowed down. They were gray tears. They were the same as the composition of the Heaven Desolate key in Ning Fan's hand. As soon as the gray tears appeared in the air, they immediately evaporated and disappeared from the samsara, leaving no trace behind. The current sword ancestor obviously did not have flesh and blood. She did not have a delicate face. However, Ning Fan could feel that when the sword ancestor looked at him with tears in her eyes, she was not crying but smiling. An incomparably gentle smile. Why? Why does she have such a gentle smile? It was clearly just a ferocious-looking skeleton. However, it gave Ning Fan a trace of peace in his heart. Was it just because she had brought him out of the butterfly's hometown? Was it because there was some invisible karma between the two of them? Junior Ning Fan greets the sword ancestor. I have something to discuss with you. It's about the sacrificial tool in this place. Seeing that the sword ancestor still had the ability to speak and a certain level of consciousness and memory, Ning Fan cupped his fists and bowed towards the direction of the 9 floors of the Iron Tower. Inwardly, he was calculating what kind of price he would have to pay in order to obtain the 9 raccoon sacrificial tool from the sword ancestor. However, the sword ancestor did not care about Ning Fan at all. She only cared about the way Ning Fan addressed himself. She muttered to herself bitterly. So it's Ning Fan. So, it's not an I Fan. No wonder I couldn't find him after searching for so long, an I Fan. When he heard this name again and it was from the sword ancestor's mouth, Ning Fan could not help but feel a little emotional even with his temperament. Ning Fan still wanted to say something but the sword ancestor interrupted him. I don't have much time left. After you appeared, I was destined to die. I know that you must have something important to do by coming here. You always have this kind of personality. I will help you get what you want. However, before that, I have something to tell you. Senior, what advice do you have for me? Feel free to speak your mind. Ning Fan was surprised. He did not expect that the old and immortal sword ancestor would actually want to chat with him. After staying silent for a while, he asked. It's not advice. It's not. In the past, I didn't understand why I couldn't find you even after searching for so long. When I finally understand why, I can't coexist in the same world as you. I'm afraid you will never be able to find me in the future. You won't be able to find me in any of the reincarnations. When you finally find me, you might have already missed me. What nonsense is the sword ancestor talking about? Ning Fan knitted his brows tightly. He could not understand the sword ancestor's words at all. However, he did not know why, but there was a trace of sorrow in the depths of his heart. It was as if countless fine needles were pricking and tearing his heart apart. You can't find me and I can't meet you. If the 2 lines intersect, we will meet each other for the rest of our lives. If the 2 lines are parallel, we will walk together forever and never meet again. Luckily, before I turned into a pile of bones, I have already left my most beautiful smile. I hope that they can enter your parallel line and accompany you with joy. Smile? What smile? Ning Fan was even more confused, but he did not interrupt the sword ancestor's words rashly. The morning moon in the ancient desolate mountain takes 10 years to complete. The tide of the defying mortal sea takes 100 years to rise. The mist of the vast expanse Dao takes 1,000 years to recede. The green peaches of the ancient heavenly court take 10,000 years to bloom. The bell orchid of the heavenly desolate ancient realm takes 100,000 years to bloom. As for me, I'm only allowed to have a smile every few million years. I've waited for a very long time. I've left a lot of things for you. I really want to watch the morning moon together, even if it's just 10 years. That was the end of her words. An unexpected change suddenly took place. The sword ancestor obviously wanted to say something else, but her voice was muffled. She could no longer make a sound. All she could do was let out a faint sigh. It seems like her time has finally come. The sword ancestor's remains that the Triflame realm cultivators had been trying to kill for countless years but to no avail suddenly emitted a sky-piercing death chi without any warning. There was also an unimaginable power of the great Tao that created circles of samsara ripples on the 9 floors of the Iron Tower, turning the sword ancestor's remains into ashes bit by bit. What's going on? I didn't disturb the layout of this place. Why did the sword ancestor's remains suddenly turn into ashes? There's actually such a terrifying power of the great Tao that is destroying the sword ancestor's remains. This isn't a power that a second-step cultivator can resist. Ning Fan's expression turned gloomy. He did not know what was happening in this place. He did not understand what the sword ancestor meant by talking nonsense. However, when he saw the sword ancestor's remains disappearing in front of his eyes, he felt a surge of anger for no reason. He did not know where that anger came from and he did not know who it was directed at. However, it made his heart extremely cold. It was so cold that he felt like killing someone. What's going on with this feeling? Even though I don't understand why, it seems like my body's instinct doesn't allow me to watch the sword ancestor disappear in front of me. Originally, before he figured out the layout of this place, he would not rashly step 100 zhang into the Iron Tower. However, at this moment, his body involuntarily flew towards the direction of the 9 floors of the Iron Tower. He continuously approached the Iron Tower. 90 zhang. All of a sudden, countless dark swords flew out from the top of the Iron Tower. All of them were burned away by Ning Fan's devil flames. 800 zhang. More sword shadows shot out from the Iron Tower. They were no longer at a level that the devil flames could extinguish. Ning Fan raised his hand and used the 24 devil banners to block them. It was the first innate lower-grade magical treasure he had obtained after killing He Zhu, the 5 poisons banner. 700 zhang. 600 feet. 50 zhang. Black figures wearing black robes embroidered with golden patterns of 10 suns and smile-crying masks flew out of the Iron Tower. The weakest of them were celestial venerables, and there were even many celestial kings and celestial emperors. Naturally, Ning Fan was not arrogant enough to think that he could fight against so many powerful black shadows head-on. He instantly merged with the Black Cat and fully activated his god-destroying giant body. Then, he summoned countless magic treasures into the sky. 5 Poison Banner, Spirit Gathering Sect, 5 Elements Bottle, Treasure Searching Compass, Dark Immortal Cloud, Drowning World Bottle, 7 Wonders Tree, Smelting Divine Cauldron. There were also dozens of 12th Nirvana treasures and hundreds of treasures below the 12th Nirvana level. As for Ning Fan himself, he seized the opportunity and did not engage in a battle with those black shadows. Instead, he took the opportunity to move closer to the Iron Tower. 400 zhang. 300 feet. 20 zhang. 10 zhang. Rings of halos that contained the chi of the 3rd step mysteriously appeared in front of Ning Fan. Without exception, those halos were the halos that only the incipient Saint Realm possessed. They were the true divine abilities of the incipient Saint Realm. Even with the strength of Ning Fan's god-destroying shield, he could not break through those halos and cross the last 10 zhang to reach the sword ancestor. Instead, he coughed out blood from the impact of those halos. So, I can only watch the sword ancestor disappear. Ning Fan gritted his teeth with an unwilling expression. He dashed towards the halos of the incipient saint again and again. However, it was naturally impossible for him to break through those divine abilities. After tens of breaths, half of the sword ancestor's white bones had already turned into ashes. Seeing that Ning Fan was still rushing towards her, the sword ancestor let out a faint sigh. She raised one of her hands and a massive aura spread out. For a moment, it actually suppressed all the forces in heaven and earth that were preventing Ning Fan from getting closer to her. It destroyed all of the ancient black shadows. It blasted away all the halos of the incipient Saint Realm. Just by raising his hand, there seemed to be a sword chi that could slay all fiend gods and devils, looking down upon heaven and earth. Ning Fan, who had lost all the obstacles, was slightly stunned. Then, he broke through the last 10 zhang and landed on the Iron Tower with 9 floors. If he relied on himself, he would not have been able to do this. It was all thanks to the sword ancestor. The moment Ning Fan set foot on the Iron Tower, the terrifying sealing power of the tower directly stripped away all of his cultivation base, making it hard for him to maintain his god-exterminating giant body. He immediately returned to his original form. The magic power in his body became even more difficult to circulate. As his power was depleted, he nearly collapsed to the ground. After stabilizing his body with great difficulty, Ning Fan walked towards the sword ancestor's throne while withstanding the sealing power of this place. However, when he got closer, he helplessly realized that he could not stop the sword ancestor from turning into ashes at all with his current cultivation base. What destroyed the sword ancestor was the power of the great Tao of the 3rd step. No, it was not just the 3rd step. It might be even higher. It was a terrifying power that was unimaginable in the illusionary world of the last days. The sword ancestor could shatter the beginning saint ring with just a raise of her hand. However, even she could not resist this power. What happened to Senior? Why did such an unforeseen event happen as soon as you saw me? Ning Fan let out a long sigh and asked. The sword ancestor opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, she could no longer convey any words. All she could do was to face Ning Fan in silence. She had already passed away countless years ago. The so-called Madam of White Bones was just her remains. She had been holding on until now with a trace of obsession. Today, however, after seeing Ning Fan, even this trace of obsession disappeared like smoke. As a persistent cultivator, how could Ning Fan not notice this? However, even though he could see it, he could not understand it. Could it be that the last obsession of the dignified sword ancestor before she died was to see me? That's why her obsession disappeared after she saw me and was erased by samsara. Ning Fan had a guess, but he found it hard to believe. I don't understand. Even though Senior was the one who brought me out of the butterfly's hometown, this matter doesn't seem to be enough to cause Senior to have such a huge obsession. Is there any huge karma between Senior and me that I don't know? Ning Fan asked in confusion. Silence. There was still silence. After Senior disappeared, I don't think I can repay the karma that I owe you anymore, right? Ning Fan smiled bitterly. The sword ancestor still remained silent. What's with this key? It seems to be formed from your tears. It can open the giant door of infinite wasteland in this place. Ning Fan took out the gray tear key that flew out from the scripture hiding tower previously. The sword ancestor glanced at the key. His emotions became complicated, but he still remained silent. At the beginning of my cultivation, I met a woman who looked almost the same as you, but her chi was completely different from yours. However, I have a feeling that she has a certain connection with you. It's not just a simple connection like reincarnation but something else. There was still silence. In the Supreme Pill's sacred region, there is also a woman who looks very similar to you. She is another one of the 5 venerables of great inferiority. This Debay seemed to have a lot of her plans. She seemed to be a very scheming and shrewd woman. The various experiences that I had after I came to the Supreme Pill's sacred region seemed to have a trace of karma with her coincidentally. 10 venerables. This name finally caused a slight ripple in the sword ancestor's emotions. That ripple was anger. However, after the anger, there was bitterness. He could not say anything and could only remain silent. Do you like me? Ning Fan subconsciously asked this question. It was an intuition. His intuition made him say this because according to his speculation, the sword ancestor's obsession was related to him. The longing that was hidden in the sword intent seemed to be related to him too. For a woman to be so concerned about a man, it was most likely related to love. However, after saying that, Ning Fan's face suddenly turned red. He felt that it was a little inappropriate to ask such a direct question. It was indeed a little shameless. Facing this question, the sword ancestor remained silent for a while and actually chose to shake his head. Ning Fan suddenly had a feeling that he was overthinking. He smiled awkwardly and apologized to the sword ancestor. Senior, I'm sorry, and I've offended you. Inwardly, he thought, as the butterfly of the true world, could it be that I owe the sword ancestor some huge karma? Otherwise, how could I make such a strange woman like the sword ancestor keep thinking about me so much that she would not even let her corpse disappear like smoke? She would only disappear after seeing me once. Besides, this kind of unforgettable feeling seems to have nothing to do with love. Between men and women, if it's not about love, then it's about benefits? Inexplicable, really inexplicable. I can't stop Senior from disappearing. With my cultivation base, the only thing I can do for Senior is to send him off. I'm sorry. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. His body instinctively did not want the sword ancestor to disappear just like that. However, he could not do it. The sword ancestor's emotions fluctuated slightly. She seemed to be a little displeased because Ning Fan kept addressing her as Senior. As time flew by, she was finally about to disappear completely. She raised her palm that only had white bones left with difficulty and stretched it to Ning Fan's hand. It was unknown whether she wanted to hold Ning Fan's hand or do something else. In short, she withdrew her hand halfway. Her behavior was extremely strange. Even when she turned into ashes and vanished into thin air in the end, she still did not take that step forward. Thus, she would never have the chance to do so. A great sovereign of a generation actually vanished just like that. Why is the obsession of this great sovereign just to see me before she died? Ning Fan felt a little disappointed. After thinking for a while, he kept the ashes of the sword ancestor in a jade box and kept it carefully. He thought to himself that if he could go to the true world one day, he would bury the sword ancestor's corpse in her hometown. This action might be able to slightly repay the karma he owed the sword ancestor. An unknown sadness suddenly gushed out from his heart, making Ning Fan feel astonished and helpless. It was not the first time he encountered something related to the sword ancestor that triggered his strange emotions. After he came to the Supreme Pill's sacred region, all the things he encountered seemed to be shrouded in a layer of fog. He did not know how many brain cells he had lost during this trip to the sacred region. Meeting the sword ancestor today was the first of many strange things he had encountered. It was completely inexplicable. However, there was also an indescribable feeling that was stuck in his heart. Long Sanchue told him many stories when they were on the way. He said that the Madam of White Bones in the Corpse Mountain Range was the nightmare of three flame cultivators. Countless three flame cultivators wanted to expiate this departed spirit but to no avail. What was strange was that he had expiated the sword ancestor's soul after meeting her once. He had eliminated the sword ancestor's last obsession. Could it be that it would be better if I didn't appear? Then, senior sword ancestor's corpse could still exist in this world. Ning Fan suddenly had a strange thought. Then, he suppressed it. In any case, the sword ancestor had already disappeared from this world. It was useless for him to sigh now. There was another important thing he had to do now. It was to quickly take the 9 raccoon sacrificial vessel and get out of the cave to help Long Sanchue fight against the pursuers of the Stone Lord. Ning Fan jumped down from the 9 floors of the iron building. After he jumped down, his cultivation base that was originally weakened by the power of the seal was restored to its original state. He first kept all the magic treasures that he used to block the black shadow. Then, his eyes scanned across the 10,000 sword sheaths on the stone wall with vigilance. These sword sheaths contained the sword ancestor's sword intent, but they did not perish together with the sword ancestor. There was only one possibility. These sword sheaths were set up by the Southern Medicine Saint when he was still alive. They were used to defend against others from taking the sacrificial vessel. It had nothing to do with the sword ancestor's will. In this case, even if the sword ancestor had already perished, Ning Fan would still be attacked by the 10,000 sword sheaths if he takes the 9 raccoon sacrificial vessel. A ray of gray sword light was already so terrifying. If there are 10,000 sword sheaths. These sword sheaths, Ning Fan's eyes suddenly moved. Without any warning, the 10,000 sword sheaths exploded one after another. It was as if a trace of the sword ancestor's will that was hidden deep within them had detonated all the sword sheaths, destroying the Southern Medicine Saint's arrangement. Is it the last trace of the sword ancestor's will that remains in this world that is helping me? The 10,000 sword sheaths were destroyed by a trace of the sword ancestor's will. However, after they were destroyed, they recovered bit by bit under the power of the formation here. There was no time to lose. Ning Fan, of course, could not just sit and wait for the sword sheaths to recover. With a wave of his hand, he directly took the 9 raccoon sacrificial vessel and flew out of the cave. Along the way, the 49 sword sheaths were also destroyed by the sword ancestor's will again, and they were in the process of recovering bit by bit. As such, when Ning Fan left, he did not have to go through as much trouble as when he entered the cave. By the time all the sword sheaths in this place were fully reborn, Ning Fan had already taken the sacrificial vessel and fled without a trace. The process was far easier than he expected. It was so easy that it made him feel like everything was just a dream. Unknowingly, he had once again received a great favor from the sword ancestor. If it wasn't for the help of the sword ancestor's will, he would have to pay an enormous price to take the 9 raccoon sacrificial vessel in front of the 10,000 sword sheaths. At the same time when Ning Fan rushed out of the cave, the Death Emperor who was in the Meng clan far away in the Stoneflame continent suddenly sensed something. His expression changed. Not good. Something is happening in the Corpse Mountain range. At the same time, Supreme 10 Wasps who had just finished dancing and was resting in the Xiufang Square of Lioli City in the Middle State suddenly frowned. I actually let that butterfly meet its true master. What is the Flame Ancestor doing? He actually allowed this young man to invade the Corpse Mountain range. In this case, doesn't the many arrangements that I made in order to scheme against this butterfly have the biggest loophole? Humph. I originally wanted to use the Master of the Blood martial weapon as bait to catch the butterfly's affection. Now, it seems like there is a possibility that my plan will be exposed. Forget it. If my plan is really exposed, I'll just use force against this butterfly. I will certainly get his butterfly seed. When Ning Fan transformed back into his ghost-faced silver hair and flew out of the karst cave, what he saw was the back of a blood-soaked figure with dragon wings spread open. In order to block the pursuers for him, Long San Chui had already fought a bitter battle with Stone Master and the others outside the cave for 1 day and 1 night. Even though he was severely injured, he was not dead yet. He stubbornly refused to leave. His back view was quite tall and heroic. This Long San Chui really did have some capabilities to be able to survive the siege of an 8 tribulation immortal emperor and thousands of true immortals for 1 day. Ning Fan had worried about him for nothing. Long San Chui. Are you out of your mind? In the past, you trespassed into this place without permission and got one of your eyes destroyed by the Void Lord. Now, you actually dare to trespass again. Do you really think that we, the Masters of the 3 Flames, can't kill you? Also, where did that immortal venerated companion of yours go? Could it be that this young man actually entered the White Bone Cave recklessly? Humph. With this young man's immortal venerated realm, what he did was simply seeking his own death. Stone Master was also injured. While leading his subordinates to attack Long San Chui, he let out a disdainful snort, trying to disturb Long San Chui's mind with words and make him reveal a flaw. Nonsense. My younger brother Ning's strength is not much weaker than an ancient immortal venerated realm expert. How can he die in the White Bone Cave so easily? Long San Chui laughed loudly while resisting the siege. Make way. If you still don't make way, don't blame me for being merciless and killing you for real. Stone Master said angrily. Ha! With me here, no one can disturb my younger brother's business. All of you can stay here. Bang! 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 Long San Chui's dragon claws danced wildly. Another 3 ancient immortal venerated realms were sent flying while coughing out blood. All of a sudden, Long San Chui sensed Ning Fan walking out of the White Bone Cave. His body flashed and he flew to Ning Fan's side. Under the gloomy eyes of Stone Master and the other mountain guards, he laughed loudly and said to Ning Fan. Did you succeed? Yes. We can leave this place now. Ning Fan's eyes swept across Long San Chui's injuries with a complicated look inside. Then, he turned his head and looked at the giant gate of infinite wasteland that was hanging high in the sky nearby. To be honest, the current him was not too interested in going to the true world. Even if he had the key to the gate, it was unlikely that he would open the gate. He was different from those cultivators of the illusion realm who were passionate about going to the true world. Let's come again in the future. Ning Fan and Long San Chui's bodies flashed and they changed their path. They entered the dense forest and retreated from the depths of the ancient trees. They completely ignored Stone Master and the others. How arrogant! Damn it! This brat actually came back alive from the White Bone Cave. Moreover, he said that he had succeeded. Could it be? We should leave a group of people here to check if there are any losses in the White Bone Cave. The rest of us will continue to chase after these 2 intruders with me. We must not let them leave the Corpse Mountain range alive. That ghost-masked cultivator. There's no mistaking it. He's exactly the same as the portrait. He's the madman who annihilated the He clan. Stone Master's face was filled with anger, but his heart was filled with joy. I've searched far and wide for him. I actually found the madman who annihilated the He clan in this place. The corpse of the quasi-saintess that I snatched from the He clan must still be in his hands. If I can kill this brat here, I might be able to take back the corpse of the quasi-saintess from his hands. If I can do it secretly and not let the other two Flame Lords know about it, I might even be able to keep the corpse for myself without the other two Flame Lords knowing about it. It would not be like how it was in the past where the three clans agreed on how to divide the corpse. Soon, however, Stone Master could no longer feel happy. With Long San Chui leading the way, the conceited Stone Master lost sight of the two of them again. At the border of the Corpse Mountain Range, a certain boundary formation suddenly became chaotic. Then, two figures dashed out from it. After a few flashes, they disappeared from the sight of the guards of the mountain range. One day later, a piece of news once again caused a huge uproar in the Three Flames. The ghost-masked cultivator who annihilated the He clan had actually successfully invaded the Corpse Mountain Range under the watch of Lord Mu and Lord Stone. As for the losses in the Corpse Mountain Range, Lord Mu and Lord Stone did not tell anyone about it. After the incident, only the two of them and the dead emperor who arrived late knew the truth. How could the strongest expert of the five venerated beings of Bei be killed by an immortal venerable? Are you two joking with me? In the palace of the Corpse Mountain Range, the dead emperor's usual gloomy expression was gone. He directly shouted at Lord Mu and Lord Stone. Even though Lord Mu and Lord Stone were displeased by the dead emperor's arrogant tone, they still could not hide the joy on their faces. Why are you so angry, Space Lord? It is true that the invasion of the Corpse Mountain Range by two rascals is a great disgrace to us, but isn't Madame Whitebone's corpse what we, the Three Flame Lords, have been pursuing for many years? Madame Whitebone's existence is a huge threat to us. Every time she wakes up and goes berserk, countless people will die. For many years, we have tried everything we can to kill her, but we still could not. Even though we do not know what that ghost-masked immortal venerable did, it is definitely good news for us to be able to kill Madame Whitebones. Of course, just based on the fact that he annihilated the He clan, we cannot let him go. Lord Mu smiled. Too trash. You really don't understand anything. Scram. If you don't scram now, don't blame me for chasing you away. The dead emperor said furiously. What? You are the same level as me, a Flame Lord, how dare you be so rude in front of us? You don't like it? If you don't like it, let's fight. A huge battle erupted in the Corpse Mountain Range. On one side was the strongest of the three flames, the dead emperor, and on the other side were the two Eight Tribulation immortal emperors, Lord Mu and Lord Shi. The result of the battle was that the dead emperor suppressed the other two Flame Lords alone, but he was also injured. Once again, he proved his title as the strongest in front of the Three Flames cultivators. The other two Flame Lords naturally could not stay here any longer after suffering a huge loss. After leaving angrily, they declared war on Sky Flame and used the power of the two continents to attack Sky Flame. The dead emperor did not want to care about the trivial matters of the outside world at all. He stayed in the palace alone with a gloomy expression, unwilling to speak for a long time. After a long time, a voice suddenly resounded in his body. Looks like we won't have the chance to obtain the supreme sword Dao of the number one immortal emperor of the desolate ancient immortal domain. We have wasted so many years of planning in this Corpse Mountain Range, but we didn't expect an outer cultivator to spoil our plans. If I knew this would happen, I would have killed that brat at all costs when I chased after him that day. The Flame Ancestor inside the dead emperor's body said in a deep voice. Lord Flame Ancestor, please calm down. This brat has ruined our plans time and time again. I will definitely not let him leave the Supreme Pill's sacred region alive. The dead emperor's eyes flashed with killing intent. No one knew what he was planning. After leaving the Corpse Mountain Range, Ning Fan and Long San Chui arrived at the Stone Flame Continent. According to Long San Chui, he had a few innate dragon points in the territory of the Stone Flame Continent which could shield him from the spirit sense of a quasi-saint realm expert. It was the best place for him to hide from powerful enemies and recuperate and cultivate. After doing such a big thing in the Corpse Mountain Range, he had to hide well for a while. He would come out again after the storm subsides. During this trip, he had successfully obtained Jiu Li's innate sacrificial tool. Ning Fan also wanted to find a secluded place to hold its coming-of-age ceremony. Thus, he came to the Stone Flame Continent together with Long San Chui. If Jiu Li becomes an adult, its strength would most likely improve. To him, it could also increase his leverage to rescue Sovereign Tuesday. Because of this joint invasion, Ning Fan and Long San Chui had a certain level of friendship. If it wasn't for Brother Long's help, I'm afraid I would have to go through a lot more trouble to achieve this. This is just a small gift to express my gratitude. Ha! Brother Ning, you're too polite. Both of us are Zhu Long. We should help each other. Talking about gifts will hurt our relationship. If you really want to thank me, just treat me to some good wine. There's no need for gifts. Hiss. This is actually a low-grade innate sacrificial tool of the Zhu Long clan. Could it be that brother is actually giving me such a precious item? Where did this item come from? I stole it from the White Bone Cave. Ning Fan smiled. Sacrificial tools were different from magic treasures. Other than possessing the offensive and defensive abilities of magic treasures, they usually had some special uses. Only the cultivators of the corresponding races could use those special uses such as inheritance and reproduction. Other than being used as innate magic treasures, low-grade innate sacrificial tools were usually regarded as the inheritance of a race. Their value was much higher than ordinary innate magic treasures. When Ning Fan entered the White Bone Cave this time, not only did he take away the 9 Fox clan's innate sacrificial tool, he also took away a few other innate grade sacrificial tools along the way. His harvest was not small. Coincidentally, one of them was the innate sacrificial tool of the Zhu Long clan. Ning Fan was very grateful to Long San Chui for his help along the way. Thus, he generously gave that innate sacrificial tool of the Zhu Long clan to Long San Chui. For someone like him who had a lot of treasures, ordinary low-grade innate magic treasures were no longer attractive to him. Moreover, he was not a real Zhu Long. Thus, it was meaningless for him to keep the sacrificial tool of the Zhu Long clan. However, it was different for Long San Chui. With this sacrificial tool, he could marry many dragon concubines and carry on his family line. Ha! I can finally have descendants. With this sacrificial tool, I will definitely marry 8 to 10 dragon concubines and give birth to a large number of little Zhu Long. Long San Chui said excitedly. Cultivation was a heaven-defying thing. The higher one's cultivation base was, the harder it was to get children through intercourse. There were countless true immortals who lived their whole lives alone in the cultivation world. It was not that all of them did not stay away from women. It was just that it was difficult for them to have children. In the cultivation world, there were also secret techniques that were specifically used to get children. There were also special heavenly materials and earthly treasures that could directly give birth to life without the intercourse between men and women. However, if one was strong enough to become a first-grade immortal emperor, it would be very difficult to find a secret technique that could help a first-grade immortal emperor to give birth to offspring. If there were no such restrictions, an immortal emperor could easily give birth to thousands of children given his or her long life. That would be extremely terrifying. If an immortal emperor of a special race had an innate sacrificial tool, he or she would have a certain chance of successfully getting children through the ceremony, producing offspring. Children, huh? Seeing that Long San Chui would actually be so happy about this matter, Ning Fan was slightly surprised. Then, he burst into laughter. However, he took out a gray tier key from his bosom. After trying to communicate with the key, he felt an indescribable regret. In the past, this key could talk to Ning Fan even though he did not know how to communicate with all living things. Now, this key no longer made any sound. It would no longer tell Ning Fan the words the Lord doesn't recognize his concubine. It would also no longer call Ning Fan, little butterfly. Listening to the voice of the key, it could only hear the same words. I am a tear. It's a tear, no. You are the key, alright. I am a tear. It's a tear, alright, it's reasonable to say that you are the sword ancestor's tear. In the past, the sword ancestor turned his tear into the key to the giant gate of heaven wasteland. I am a tear. It's a tear. The disappearance of the sword ancestor was really regrettable. It made him unhappy. I am a tear. It's a tear, so noisy. I am a tear. It's a tear. I am a tear. It's a tear. It's a tear. Long San Chui insisted on pulling Ning Fan to a place 100 feet away from the dangerous building to drink the ancient wine. In the end, Long San Chui's alcohol tolerance was astonishing. He forcefully made Ning Fan drunk. There were always some unknown emotions that could only be forgotten by good wine. Or perhaps, he still couldn't let it go. 7 days later, Ning Fan bid farewell to Long San Chui and left the stone flame dragon cave. Along with him, there was also an expressionless young lady who had black cat ears on her head. She wore a black dress and black silk stockings. Master, are we not going to play at Uncle Long's place anymore? Speaking of which, Black Devil is already an adult. Black Devil can already do all kinds of things with Master. He can give Master many little masters. When will Master pamper Black Devil? You have just become an adult. Don't keep thinking about reproduction. You have been infected by Long San Chui. Remember, stupidity is contagious. Ning Fan felt a slight headache. Then, Master, where are we going now? Leave the stone flame dragon cave. But before we leave, we can take revenge on a small matter. Master, are you talking about the stone flame Meng family? Smart. The Meng family was filled with wedding banquets and red lanterns. Today was the day that the old ancestor of the Meng family, Meng Baixiong, was going to marry his concubine. There was an endless stream of guests who came to congratulate him. However, there were some insiders who knew the truth. The Meng family was about to decline. First, the devil's son of the Meng family was mysteriously killed. It caused the Stone Flame Lord to reprimand the Meng family severely, showing signs of losing the trust of the Stone Flame Lord. After that, Meng Baixiong left the territory of the family. No one knew where he went. When he came back, it was said that he was chased by the Golden Flame ancestral token. Even though he did not die on the spot, his injuries were hard to heal and there was no way he could turn the situation around. His lifespan was approaching and it would be within the next few decades. A great emperor of a generation was on the verge of falling. How many people sighed with regret? However, there were also more people who clapped and cheered. Meng Baixiong was a loner in his life. He did not have a wife or children. Before he died, he thought of marrying a concubine and having children so that he could leave some descendants in this world. The thought was very good. However, the actual behavior was a bit absurd. Meng Baixiong did not just marry one concubine. He actually married over 100 people at once. Moreover, they were basically the direct descendants of the Meng family's subsidiary forces. Who would be willing to marry their clan's direct descendants into the declining Meng family? Moreover, they were going to marry Meng Baixiong, this old thing who was about to die. So what if he was an immortal emperor? If he died, everything would be for naught. Moreover, once the Meng family declined, these subsidiary forces would most likely abandon the Meng family to find a new master. If they were to be involved with the Meng family, it would be somewhat troublesome. The Meng family had a lot of enemies in the Stone Flame clan. When Meng Baixiong was still alive, those enemies would not make a move, but if Meng Baixiong died, old ancestor, you forced my clan's subsidiary forces to offer their direct descendants as concubines. This matter has already caused a large number of forces. I hope old ancestor will reconsider. If you let go at this time, there will still be room for mediation. The current Meng family patriarch advised Meng Baixiong. Stupid. I forcefully married the direct descendants of so many forces just to find a way out for the declining Meng family. If I can be involved with so many forces, even if I turn into dust, you and the other juniors should be able to barely maintain your family's business in the cracks of the Stone Flame clan. Don't try to persuade me anymore. Go and call out the minister. Let's carry out the ceremony. Meng Baixiong suppressed the death chi on his face and forcefully propped up a smear of red light. Under the service of the maids, he put on a wedding dress. When he arrived at the auditorium, over 100 women wearing red veils showed a trace of resentment towards Meng Baixiong at the same time. They hated Meng Baixiong for forcefully marrying them. They hated that their life's happiness was about to become the scheme of this dying old man. Minister, can we carry out the ceremony? Meng Baixiong forcefully put on an imposing manner and asked the minister with an indifferent expression. Old ancestor, please wait a moment. There are still some guests from the great clans that have yet to arrive. Which forces are missing? Meng Baixiong knitted his brows. He was about to die, and many forces were unwilling to be involved with the Meng family. The reason why they had yet to arrive was not because they were late, but because they did not intend to come. Humph. Those snobbish people. The Meng family of Huanghua Valley, the Ji family of Ziluhe, the leader of Shi Yan's personal guards, Lord Yuan Lang, the quasi-emperor realm rogue cultivator Wang Gu are still missing. Ning Fan am still missing. In the wedding hall, an uninvited guest suddenly barged into the martial law of the Meng family. He slaughtered hundreds of armored guards and arrived at the wedding hall, leaving behind a trail of blood. The entire wedding hall immediately fell into chaos. It was because the enemy of the Meng family was a cultivator with silver hair and a ghost face. Ghost. Ghost face and silver hair. It's the lunatic who destroyed the Meng family and invaded the Corpse Mountain range. This person intruded into the Meng family with malicious intentions. What should we do now? This person could even kill Ancestor He. Meng Baixiong, who is half dead, is definitely his opponent. His reputation is well deserved. The great calamity of the Meng family has arrived. Ning Fan just stood silently at the entrance of the wedding hall. However, he gave everyone a powerful aura force that was as vast as the heavenly might. His white robe and silver hair were even more out of place compared to the jubilant atmosphere of this place. What is heaven? All the true immortals present were shocked. Ning Fan's presence seemed to have replaced the heavenly Tao of this place, giving them a fatal threat. Even an immortal emperor like Meng Baixiong found it a little difficult to withstand Ning Fan's aura force when he was in a weakened state. Who exactly are you? First, you annihilated the He family. Then, you trespassed into the Corpse Mountain range. After the Wood Flame and Sky Flame committed a great crime, you came to our Meng family to create trouble. Do you really not put us, the Triflame cultivators, in your eyes? So what if I put you in my eyes? So what if I don't put you in my eyes? Arrogant brat. Meng Baixiong was enraged. Many cultivators who regarded the Stone Flame family as their honor were also enraged. Under the influence of Ning Fan's reputation, Meng Baixiong did not dare to directly attack him. Instead, he calmed himself down and called out to the immortal venerables and immortal kings of the other forces around him. Everyone, what are you hesitating for? Quickly join forces with me to eliminate this devil. I, the Lord of the Stone Flame, have set an extremely heavy reward for this person. He is just an immortal venerable. If we join forces, we will certainly be able to eliminate him here. The great merit is right in front of us. Why are you still hesitating and acting like little girls? Meng Baixiong actually wanted to drag all the forces who were his enemies or friends into this mess. After analyzing the pros and cons, a large number of experts of the Stone Flame family immediately responded to Meng Baixiong's call and glared at Ning Fan. However, there were also many cautious people who kept a distance from the people of the Meng family after some hesitation. They wanted to observe the situation. Humph. Who exactly are you? How dare you act like this in the Triflame family and yet, you hide your head and show your tail. I really don't know if you are extremely bold or just a coward. Meng Baixiong mocked. Meng Baixiong, you actually asked me who I am? Don't tell me you have forgotten who it was that injured you to such a state. The taste of the golden flame ancestral token must have been unpleasant, right? Ning Fan smiled indifferently. His words made Meng Baixiong freeze on the spot. His face was filled with disbelief. Could the ghost-masked cultivator who stirred up the hurricane in the entire Triflame family be that junior external cultivator? How is this possible? It is impossible for that junior external cultivator to give me such an oppressive feeling. This is definitely not true. Humph. There's no need to talk nonsense. No matter who you are, since you came to my Meng family to create trouble today, I won't let you leave here alive. Immortal washing battle, take this kid away from me. Meng Baixiong let out a cold snort. He spat out a ray of golden light which pressed down on Ning Fan. Immediately, many people in the crowd exclaimed in surprise. It's an innate magic treasure. It's actually the famous magic treasure of the old ancestor of the Meng family. It's the immortal washing battle that is said to take in everything. This external cultivator might be able to withstand the power of an innate expert. On that day, Ning Fan had suffered some losses in Meng Baixiong's immortal washing battle. Moreover, the flying swords of the four emperors Luo Hansong were all devoured by this battle. But now, boom, with a punch, he directly sent the earth-shattering immortal washing battle flying with just the strength of his physical body. The vast wind pressure immediately caused the surrounding cultivators to lose their balance. Countless of them fell to the ground. The entire wedding hall collapsed under the wind pressure. When the wave of the punch spread out, tens of thousands of houses in the Meng family began to collapse. The immortal washing battle is just so. Ning Fan sneered. Countless gasps could be heard. Even Meng Baixiong himself was in a state of deep shock. This kid actually used his physical body to withstand the power of an innate magic treasure. How is this possible? Chapter 1075. Of course, Ning Fan would not explain to the cultivators in this place about the strange phenomenon of his divine spirit-crippled body. To him, it was not a big deal to send a connate magic treasure flying with a single punch. After all, Meng Baixiong, who was using a connate magic treasure, was not in his peak condition. His injuries were severe and his life was in danger. It was difficult for him to use even a 10th or 20% of his dermic powers. Under all kinds of weakening conditions, the immortal cleansing cloak's power that could be unleashed was very limited. Of course, if Meng Baixiong uses this treasure with his full cultivation base, Ning Fan would not dare to be careless and use his physical body to fight against an innate magic treasure. After breaking the attack of the immortal washing totem with a single punch, Ning Fan did not want to waste time talking nonsense with the cultivators here. He directly flipped his hand and tossed out a ray of 7-colored light towards Meng Baixiong. The 7-colored light came too quickly, so few people could see what it was. Meng Baixiong felt a strong sense of danger from that 7-colored light. His expression turned gloomy. He no longer had the time to be shocked by Ning Fan's terrifying physical body. With a series of hand seals, he controlled the immortal washing cloak to attack again, colliding with that 7-colored light. With this clash, even the 7-colored radiance's ferocious attack couldn't help but slow down slightly. It revealed its true form, which was the wonderful 7 treasures tree. The immortal washing battleship was at a disadvantage. Although it was a connate magic treasure, its power was inferior to the non-connate tree of 7 wonders. Because its owner was seriously injured, its power was less than 10%, and it was directly blown away by the tree of 7 wonders. It wasn't to the extent of being damaged in one hit, but the brilliance of the magic treasure was somewhat flickering. The aftershock of the attack of the 7 wonders tree even forced Meng Baixiong to retreat ceaselessly, and he shattered piece after piece of limestone while swaying and almost fell to the ground. Even though he wasn't injured, he was in a slightly sorry state. This is the legendary tree of 7 wonders. To actually have such power, could it be that this tree has already been nurtured to a certain height? Meng Baixiong's face was as gloomy as still water. He suppressed the shock in his heart and made another hand seal with his 10 fingers, forcibly stabilizing the flickering brilliance of the immortal washing cloak. For the third time, the immortal washing cloak rushed forward. Ning Fan did not hesitate either. He caught the wonderful tree of 7 treasures in his hand and continuously attacked Meng Baixiong. In just tens of breaths, the two of them had exchanged more than 1,000 attacks. Countless afterimages were flying about. The two of them fought higher and higher. In the end, they fought from the ground to the sky. The terrifying fluctuations of the battle shook the hearts of every single cultivator here, and no one dared to arbitrarily interfere in such a battle for fear of being affected by the fluctuations of the battle. The Tree of 7 Wonders created cracks in the void that could not be healed. The immortal washing battle cloak smashed into the ground, creating numerous rifts and valleys. Countless great Tao laws were thrown into chaos as the two of them clashed again and again, causing them to collapse. Whether it was the Meng clan's cultivators or the guests incited by Meng Baixiong, at this moment, all of them stayed on the ground and quickly retreated into the distance. They did not dare to soar into the sky. They did not dare to move forward. They did not dare to get involved in the battle between Ning Fan and Meng Baixiong. Like mortals worshipping a miracle, they looked up at the battle between the two. After tens of breaths, Ning Fan steadily gained the upper hand after more than 1,000 attacks. His white robes fluttered in the wind, but not a single strand of cloth was torn. Not even a speck of dust touched his body. Meng Baixiong was in a very sorry state. He was constantly spurting blood from the Tree of 7 Wonders. His wedding robes were only left with a few tattered pieces of cloth, covering the important parts of his body. With the current power that the immortal washing cloak could display, it was impossible for him to negate all of the attacks from the treasure tree. His injuries that were already so severe that he could not suppress were getting worse bit by bit. Even though Meng Baixiong had the cultivation base of an immortal emperor, he naturally could not be compared to He Zhu, who was in his peak condition in his weakened state. Originally, he could only display the magic power of a quasi-emperor in his severely injured state. Now, his chi was actually equivalent to that of an ordinary 5th tribulation immortal king. Moreover, his chi was also showing signs of weakening as his injuries worsened. Facing Ning Fan's airtight attacks, Meng Baixiong only felt his scalp tingling. If he continued to fight Ning Fan in a battle of attrition, the injuries in his body would become more and more serious. The cultivation base that he could display would also become lower and lower. In the end, he would certainly be easily killed by Ning Fan because of his injuries. Even though he did not want to believe Ning Fan's identity, in fact, Meng Baixiong was very sure that the ghost-faced cultivator who kept attacking him with the treasure tree was Ning Fan. Sensing the aura at such a close distance could not lie. Because of this, his heart was also stirred up by a storm. 2 months ago, he tried to kill Ning Fan in the Fire Spirit Tower. If it wasn't for Ning Fan using the golden palm token of the Flame Ancestor to plot against him, he would definitely have the ability to kill Ning Fan like pinching an ant. However, in just 2 short months, the little external cultivator who could not withstand a single blow actually had an unimaginable improvement in his strength. Even an immortal emperor like him felt that he was no match for Ning Fan. To cultivators, 2 months was just a short period of time. How could there be such a huge increase in strength? Unbelievable. Among all the cultivators that I have met in my life, none of them could improve their strength from an ordinary immortal venerable to the level where they could kill an immortal emperor in just 2 short months. Did this young man have a fortuitous encounter in these 2 months which caused his cultivation base to improve greatly? Or did he already have such strength but he did not release his full strength in the Fire Spirit Tower because of some reasons? My only grandson was killed by this young man. Henceforth, the last descendant of my bloodline in this world has fallen. Under the golden palm token of this young man, I only have a few dozen years left to live. Today, I might even die directly. The matter of my death is irreversible, but this old man is unwilling. This old man refuses to accept this. Puff! Meng Baixiong, who was full of unwillingness, suddenly groaned and spurted out blood. The mental connection between his body and the immortal cleansing warp was actually severed. After Ning Fan continuously smashed the immortal cleansing warp for thousands of times, he finally destroyed the magical treasure light on the surface of the warp. Then, the great river of oblivion spread out and directly absorbed the immortal cleansing warp which had temporarily lost its magical treasure power into the bottom of the river. In a direct battle, he forcibly seized Meng Baixiong's famous magical treasure. How strong! How tyrannical! Not good. Old ancestors' innate magical treasure was actually snatched away by this devil. What kind of great river is that? It actually gave people a strange feeling that it could transform heaven and earth and absorb everything. It's actually an ancient grand cultivator's divine ability. This devil has too many heaven-defying means. Even Ancestor Meng would find it difficult to compete with him. What should we do? We must escape. If we don't, I'm afraid we will be killed by this devil. Seeing that Meng Baixiong even lost his innate magical treasure, a large number of cultivators were extremely afraid of Ning Fan. They began to flee in all directions, fearing that they would be annihilated together with the Meng family which was on the verge of destruction. Among the fleeing cultivators, there were guests who did not help either side before. There were also people who were incited by Meng Baixiong's words to help. There were even people of the Meng family who were utterly disappointed in the Meng family. With a thought in Ning Fan's mind, a black shadow suddenly flew out from his body and forcibly took over the operation of the heavenly Tao within 10,000 li of the Meng family. Then, it sealed the heavens and the earth, blocking everyone's escape route. The person who sealed the heavens and the earth was an ice-cold girl wearing a black dress with cat ears. She was the black devil who had already entered adulthood and possessed the physical body of a Tao soul. Humph! Did my master allow you to escape? Those who stay here and wait for orders will be spared from death. Those who run away will be killed without mercy. While speaking, an aura force comparable to that of a quasi-emperor spread out from the black devil's body. With a wave of her small hand, the lightning power of the heavenly tribulation was under her control. The rolling heavenly tribulation condensed in the vast sky. Its momentum covered the entire sky, causing the expressions of the cultivators to change. No one expected that Ning Fan did not come to destroy the Meng family alone. He actually brought along a little girl as a helper. She was not an ordinary little girl. She was actually a little girl with the cultivation base of a quasi-emperor. Moreover, she was a terrifying little girl who could deprive the heavenly Tao of a certain area of the extreme Dan sacred region. A quasi-emperor. Since when did our three flames have such a quasi-emperor? Could it be that this girl is a reclusive person from the sacred mountain? Why is this girl able to exercise the heavenly Tao on behalf of the heavens? This is not something that a cultivator can do. Since ancient times, there has never been a second-step cultivator who could seize the control of the heavenly Tao from the hands of the heavenly Tao of a medium-class world where the laws of the world are formed. Damn it! With this girl sealing the heavens and the earth, can't we escape? Countless fleeing cultivators were blocked by the power of the heavens and the earth. They could not leave the territory of the Meng family. After trying again and again to no avail, their eyes were filled with despair and they gave up on escaping. There were also a few cultivators who did not believe in evil. They tried to break through the Black Devil's seal by force. As a result, they were directly killed by the lightning power of the heavenly tribulation that the Black Devil attracted. Master, don't worry. The Black Devil will never let anyone escape. Master, you just need to focus on the battle with that Meng ancestor. The Black Devil acted like a loyal servant. He imprisoned everyone in this place and even cut off all information transmission with his divine ability, making it impossible for the Meng family to be informed of the situation to other forces. Ning Fan nodded with satisfaction. With an adult kitten as a helper, it was very convenient for him to kill and rob. None of the captives could escape or send any information to the outside world. They could only be trapped to death. You actually have such a strong helper. She can enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Meng Baixiong sucked in a breath of cold air. He had also never heard of such an unimaginable thing. His fear towards Ning Fan increased again. He only had one innate magical treasure and it was taken away by Ning Fan. His combat power could be said to have been greatly reduced. With his magic power weakened, it was difficult for him to display much of the power of his divine ability. The possibility of injuring Ning Fan, who had a terrifying physical body, was close to zero. Meng Baixiong's eyes showed a hint of struggle. Then, it turned into determination. He clasped his palms together and a crack of the incense flame world appeared behind him. The incense flames that had been accumulated for millions of years surged out from the crack and turned into a white mist sword light. It slashed towards Ning Fan. The sword of incense flames. Meng Baixiong originally planned to use these incense flames when he prayed for children. However, it seemed like he would not have the chance to do so if he did not kill Ning Fan. Only this level of power, huh? It's too weak compared to Bai Lu's sword of incense flames. Ning Fan looked at Meng Baixiong's incense flame world with a calm expression, allowing the incense flame sword to take shape. The second time he faced the incense flame sword of a strong enemy, he did not activate the God-vanquishing shield. Instead, he directly used the wonderful tree of 7 treasures to destroy the incense flame sword that Meng Baixiong was so confident about. The whole process did not take much effort. In terms of the number of disciples, Meng Baixiong's disciples were several times more than Taoist Bai Lu's. However, the amount of incense flames left in his incense flame world was far less than Taoist Bai Lu's. Most of the incense flames were used up during his previous cultivation. The remaining incense flames were the accumulation of millions of years. Because of that, the power of the incense flame sword was far less than Taoist Bai Lu's 74 million years of accumulation. It could not give Ning Fan the slightest sense of danger. Even his incense flame sword was destroyed. Meng Baixiong's face showed a trace of depression. In the end, that depression turned into madness. Being so weak, he could no longer use many of his immortal emperor techniques to deal with Ning Fan. Even his primordial true body was severely injured due to the pursuit of the golden palm token of the flame ancestor. Facing the powerful Ning Fan, if Meng Baixiong did not fight back with all his might, he no longer had any power to resist. He only had one last trump card left. It might be able to injure Ning Fan, sacrificing his life to detonate his primordial spirit. The primordial spirit of an immortal emperor was known for being difficult to kill. However, Meng Baixiong's primordial spirit was already severely injured and weak. He was not confident that his primordial spirit could escape from Ning Fan's hands. Even if he managed to escape, he only had a few decades left to live. A few decades left to live. Ha! He only had a few decades left to live. He was a dignified immortal emperor who had been running amok all his life. However, because of a young man like Ning Fan, he ended up like this. How miserable! How humiliating! How could he not hate him? Ha! Ha ha ha! What difference does it make to me whether I live a few decades longer or a few decades less? I won't run anymore. I won't fight anymore. I admit that I have lost. Now that I am severely injured, I am not your opponent at all. Life and death are up to the heavens. I accept my fate. But do you think that you have already won? I don't want any descendants to inherit my bloodline. I don't care about the life and death of the Meng family anymore. You can't kill me. The only one who can kill me is me. Explode. Meng Baixiong's physical body directly exploded into a bloody mist. Then, his golden primordial spirit flew out from the bloody mist. It kept expanding within the bloody mist. Violent energy began to gather within his primordial spirit. Everyone on the scene cried out in fear. No one had expected that Meng Baixiong would actually be forced to the point of self-detonating his primordial spirit. The energy contained in the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor was extremely terrifying. If it self-detonated, no living being below the immortal emperor realm would be able to survive within the range of the explosion. We will die. We will all die. If I had known that the Meng family would face such a great calamity, I would never have participated in Ancestor Meng's concubine ceremony. I don't want to die. I don't want to die yet. Old ancestor, stop. Quickly stop. Do you want to kill all of us, the descendants of the Meng family? Senior Meng, please stop. You can't. You can't. No. Don't. Countless terrified cries resounded across the sky. However, they could not stop Meng Baixiong's determination to self-detonate. Meng Baixiong's primordial spirit continued to expand. Death was constantly approaching. However, the small face of his primordial spirit revealed a sinister smile. He wanted to kill Ning Fan right here and now. Even if he did not die from the explosion, he would at least severely injure him. Even if this action would cause countless descendants of the Meng family and his friends to perish together with him, Meng Baixiong would not hesitate to do it. Unfortunately, even suicide was an extravagant hope for someone as weak as him. Ning Fan's face revealed a ruthless expression. He pointed his finger at Meng Baixiong across the sky. At the price of coughing up blood slightly, he froze Meng Baixiong in midair. The self-detonation wave was stopped. The expanding primordial spirit shrunk back to its normal size. Meng Baixiong struggled with all his might, but he could not move his primordial spirit at all. He could only watch as Ning Fan approached him step by step in the sky. With a grab of his hand, Ning Fan directly pulled him away and threw him into a silver cauldron. Refine. Ning Fan uttered a single word coldly. Countless rays of blood-red light suddenly burst out from the spirit-refining cauldron. Amidst the dense blood-red light, a huge blood ball rose from the cauldron and imprisoned Meng Baixiong's primordial spirit inside. The blood ball emitted a boundless suction force. In front of countless cultivators, it sucked away all the life force of the primordial spirit of the immortal emperor of a generation, turning it into more than 230 drops of myriad spirit blood in the cauldron. A towering aura of death spread out from the silver cauldron. A great emperor of a generation fell in Ning Fan's hands just like that. Dead silence. Above the ruins of the Meng family, countless cultivators trembled from head to toe when they saw this terrifying scene. They did not dare to speak. Who could have expected that this ghost-masked cultivator would actually be so powerful that the old ancestor of the Meng family could not even commit suicide? Who could have expected that this ghost-masked cultivator would actually refine the primordial spirit of the Meng family's ancestor into a pill in front of countless cultivators? Not only was his method ferocious, but it was also unfathomable. The cause of that day, the effect of that day. If your clan's devil son didn't harm me, if your clan's immortal emperor didn't try to kill me, your Meng family wouldn't have such a calamity today. As for the cultivators present, those who have nothing to do with the Meng family, I can let you go. As for the cultivators of the Meng family, because none of you are Meng Baixiong's direct descendant, I can also give you two choices. Either you die or become my incense slaves. Fellow disciples of the Meng family, give me your answer. Ning Fan kept the silver cauldron and the storage pouch that Meng Baixiong left behind after his death. Then, he stood in the sky and said to the cultivators below. He was a devil lord. However, he could spare the lives of those who had nothing to do with the Meng family. For example, he could spare the lives of those forces who did not help either side or those women who were abducted by Meng Baixiong. However, the cultivators of the Meng family would not have it easy. They could either die, or they could become his incense slaves forever and be imprisoned in the incense world. As soon as these words were spoken, the cultivators below were greatly surprised. Most of them were pleasantly surprised. Those who did not help either side of the Meng family were all deeply grateful to Ning Fan when they heard that Ning Fan did not kill them. As for the guests who stood on Meng Baixiong's side and the cultivators of the Meng family, when they heard this, they also had their own plans. One day later, another piece of news shocked the entire Three Flames family. After invading the Corpse Bone Mountain Range, the ghost-faced cultivator who destroyed the He family went to the Stone Flame continent and annihilated the Meng family. He killed the immortal emperor of the Meng family, Meng Baixiong, and captured all the cultivators of the Meng family. The family's foundation was naturally emptied out as well. As soon as this news spread, countless experts naturally chased to the ruins of the Meng family. Among them, there was no lack of immortal emperors and even Stone Lord himself. Unfortunately, it was impossible for them to find Ning Fan. After destroying the Meng family, Ning Fan naturally left this place and looked for a place to absorb the benefits of destroying the Meng family. Ning Fan once again used a 10,000 years old tower to refine all of the Meng family's foundation and the 230 drops of 10,000 spirit blood that were refined from Meng Baixiong's primordial spirit. The cultivation bases of the ancient gods and ancient demons had risen to the peak of the thought fragmentation realm. The cultivation bases of the ancient devils had risen to the 12 nirvana heavenly devil realm. All three of his cultivation bases had improved by one whole realm within 10,000 years. To ordinary cultivators, it was definitely an unimaginable improvement. However, to Ning Fan, it was not a big deal. After all, he had forcefully devoured all of the foundation of the second immortal emperor's force. It would be strange if his cultivation base did not improve at all. As for the 230 drops of 10,000 spirit blood, they had also slightly improved the attributes of Ning Fan's divine spirit crippled body. Bone age, 140,000. 10,000 years old tower, 3 left. Plundering an immortal emperor's force is indeed the fastest way to improve my cultivation base. Unfortunately, an immortal emperor's force is not that easy to destroy. I succeeded in destroying the He family because the Three Flames continent was not on guard against me at that time. I succeeded in destroying the Meng family because Meng Baixiong, who was severely injured and on the verge of death, was too weak. He was too easy to kill. It was even easier than killing Bai Lu. If I go and destroy the other immortal emperor's forces in the Three Flames continent, the risk will be unimaginable. Besides, the Three Flame Lords seem to be looking for me now. The situation of the Three Flames continent is also unstable because of the war between the continents. I can't stay here for long. It's time for me to leave. Besides, my divine, demon and devil cultivation bases have all reached the peak of the true immortal realm and heavenly devil realm. Only by breaking through the bottleneck and stepping into the eternal ancient realm and atavism realm can I continue to improve. Before that, it's useless to consume ordinary pills, Dao fruits, and spirit fruits. If it's the immeasurable pill, it might still be useful. Unfortunately, even an immortal emperor's foundation does not have many of such rare pills in stock. After the true immortal realm is the eternal ancient realm. After the heavenly devil realm is the atavism realm. Existences at the eternal ancient realm and atavism realm are already at the peak of the second step. This step is extremely difficult to take. Usually, only 1 out of 100 peak thought-severing realm cultivators can successfully break through. As for the rest, most of them will be trapped at this bottleneck for life. This shows how difficult it is to become an eternal immortal venerable. Sensing the peak of his divine, demon, and devil cultivation base in his body, Ning Fan frowned slightly and opened an ancient scroll in his hand. This ancient scroll was something that Ning Fan bought from the ancient country's trading formation. It recorded the methods and experiences of ordinary peak thought-severing realm cultivators to break through the bottleneck of the eternal ancient realm. The biggest difference between an eternal ancient realm cultivator and an ordinary true immortal realm cultivator was the nature of their magic power. For first-step cultivators, their magic power was initially calculated in units of 60 years. After that, it would return to the primordial realm. This step was the biggest difference between void fragmentation realm cultivators and ordinary first-step cultivators. When second-step cultivators become immortals, their cultivation bases could no longer be calculated purely by quantity. This was the biggest difference between immortal realm cultivators and mortal realm cultivators. For eternal ancient realm cultivators, the nature of their magic power was different from that of true immortal realm and life immortal realm cultivators. If one wants to truly break through to the eternal ancient realm, one would need to cultivate to such a difference. The magic power of an eternal ancient realm cultivator is once again materialized from its immeasurable state. From the first step to the peak of the second step, a cultivator's magic power would go from nothing to something. Even though it still exists, it is already very different from before. The eternal ancient realm cultivators calculate the level of their magic power in units of tribulation. A peak thought-severing realm cultivator would need to accumulate at least 500 tribulations of magic power in order to break through to the immortal venerable realm. The first tribulation of the eternal ancient realm would require magic power of 1000 tribulations. Second tribulation immortal venerable realm would require 2000 tribulations. Third tribulation immortal king realm would require 3000 tribulations. Every time a cultivator breaks through to the eternal ancient realm, they would need to accumulate 1000 tribulations of magic power in order to break through the bottleneck. To break through to the sixth tribulation immortal emperor realm, they would need 6000 tribulations of magic power. To break through to the ninth tribulation of the eternal ancient realm, they would need 9000 tribulations of magic power. First step Pre-Saint realm, 10,000 tribulations. Second step Pre-Saint realm, 20,000 tribulations. Third step Ancient realm Great Cultivator, 30,000 tribulations. Theoretically, a third step Pre-Saint realm Great Cultivator whose magic power had reached 30,000 tribulations could begin to become a true saint and advance to the third step. Of course, becoming a true saint with 30,000 tribulations was just the lowest record recorded by the heaven-reaching sect. There were very few who could truly become a true saint with just 30,000 tribulations of magic power. Besides, when one reaches the eternal ancient realm, magic power was no longer the standard to determine one's final combat power. Instead, magic treasures, secret techniques, eternal true body, trump cards and other decisive factors would be the key to victory or defeat in the eternal ancient realm. A peak thought-severing realm cultivator would need to accumulate 500 tribulations of magic power in order to break through to the eternal ancient immortal venerable realm. The most common way to increase one's cultivation base in the eternal ancient realm in the future is to consume a type of pill called the immeasurable pill. Of course, there are also other heavenly materials and earthly treasures that have the effect of transforming magic power. The real problem is that the immeasurable pills I have are far from enough to transform the magic power of the divine, demon, and devil realms into tribulation realm. Thinking of this, Ning Fan could not help but slightly frown.